phenomenal.
それでは早速全速前進
You know what the weak point of a mech is? The fucking pilot.
Get away from her, you bitch!
His papers say he was a raven.
Protocol 3.
A pattern blue!
Welcome to On the Shoulders of Giants, a giant robot power hour discussing mechs across media, their stories, and why we love them. I'm Alice, and I'm joined by Brian.
Eating a slovenly breakfast burrito with no lactate and nobody wants to wait with me at the train terminal. Call that a standalone complex.
And Nico.
In this essay, I will argue that due to the precedent set by claiming Hitomi's watch is a mech, we must acknowledge that the Major's blue jeans are also a mech.
And Iris J.
One bullet left. Hey, laughing boy, one bullet left.
This time around, we're discussing, hey, Saito! Fork over that weapon now! Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, Season 1, Part 2. Let's launch into it.
I'm glad we're all bringing a very specific energy this morning.
I am letting the caffeine molecules subsume my brain. I'm ready to go.
So, this is part 2 of us covering the first season. We covered production notes in our previous episode, so if you want some groundwork behind what happened in this, maybe watch part 1 of a two-parter. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe go do
if
that.
you're new to OSG, welcome, and also, what are you doing? Go listen to part 1. This is the second part of something.
Yeah, this would be a really weird place to start.
Yeah.
This is the artsiest way to do it. It's in medias res.
Oh, okay.
We're all learning today.
I've never heard that word pronounced. I thought it was in media res. Did I get that wrong?
I
think it's either.
I'm not Jean-Luc Godard. Don't look to me for official.
But for those of you who don't want to listen to 3.5 hours of us talking, here's a brief recap. Section 9 solved some cyber crimes and some cyber brain crimes. They also got embroiled in the cold case of the Laughing Man. We also learned about cyberbrain sclerosis and how early cyberization was extremely dangerous due to the lack of a vaccine. That's what we need to bring from the first part into the second part. Anything I missed on that?
No, I think that basically covers it. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff around, like, the actual investigation of the Laughing Man, but I think they actually do a pretty good recap in the show of, like,
oh yeah,
here's where we're at.
This time we're covering episodes 14 through 26 through to the end of the season. I kind of wanted to, it's been a while since we've talked. For those listeners, it's been about a month since we went over exactly how much I love Major Kusanagi. So anything from the first half, do you want to guys kind of want to give your overview of what you brought into the second half of it? We'll start alphabetically with Brian.
So, I mean, the second half of episodes is like, hoo boy.
Oh, yeah.
Incredibly dense. I don't know, man. I think that this is, these 13 episodes are probably the best the show gets. I love the second season, don't get me wrong. Like, the second season isn't about the standalone complex the way that this one is, in my opinion. So I just think that, like, the way this wraps up, I love the way that this this arc with the Laughing Man doesn't wrap up with a huge bang, doesn't wrap up with a huge fight or like huge like meltdown climax. It is literally just like the liquidization of oversight bodies and the consequences of having to like play this terrible political game. I love it. So that's what I brought to it. I was very excited to kind of just watch the episode 26 where everyone's just talking.
Nico, what about you? What from the first half did you remember? Because you're the one here who hasn't seen this, so you didn't know what was gonna happen.
This was a funny question when I was helping put together the notes. I was like, I mean, this is kind of more of a question for me. Everybody else knows what's gonna happen. I was like, what? What's happening? I just want to say that in the first half, I had some specific complaints. I was like, Major's always not wearing pants, and there's no other women. And I just want to say, I formally apologize. We got both more pants and more women.
We also got a weird scene where Aramaki decided to interrogate Kusanagi about her outfit on episode 15.
I'm obsessed with it. Iris, so this was your 723rd time seeing this. So what did you bring from the first half as we headed into the second?
First of all, I should point out that I does not come after N in the alphabet, and this is not, in fact, alphabetical order.
Hey.
The guest.
I'd like to read my notes app apology.
T. It's T for the guest. That's your name now.
Oh, okay. Well, as the Iris J, I feel like these episodes really, this is where the show starts getting blurrier with its differentiation between standalone and complex episodes. We start seeing elements of smaller stories start to intertwine into the larger Laughing Man narrative, both in terms of significant specific plot points and also in terms of characterization. I think that we get to see another side of a lot of these characters, and probably my biggest regret is that I didn't watch this when it was coming out, and also I didn't watch this while having been born maybe about 15 years earlier and already being a fan of Ghost in the Shell, because getting to see these characters get kind of fleshed out like this, I feel like for the first time would have really hit
And
in
then
an
owned.
amazing way. Yeah,
Well,
and then owned. Yes.
They thrive.
But it was a reverse own.
Yeah, then they arise.
Then they
Boo.
Yay!
Okay. Before we get into the next part, I need you all to know that I grabbed my tissue box, which is a Maersk shipping container that
that's
holds
right.
my tissue
Oh.
boxes. So when you hear clinking metal on the record, it's because of my Maersk shipping container. And I do have to pay I have to pay 120% tariff on every tissue I pull from that container.
Yes.
Okay, so let's give the synopsis. What happened was, as mentioned last time, in the year 2030, advancing technology has radically changed the world. Widespread use of prosthetic bodies, cyberbrains, and powerful mechanized military platforms creating new challenges for keeping order. Standalone Complex follows Section 9, a special operations task force that investigates high-level crime perpetrated with technology. This group of former military and police personnel are led at the highest level by Chief Aramaki and on the ground by Major Motoko Kusanagi. In the second part of Season 1, Section 9 is tasked with dealing with cases of all magnitude and finds themselves falling into trouble everywhere they go. But the specter of the specter of the Laughing Man hangs over Section 9 and Togasa. Investigating the threats left behind, Section 9 uncovers a vast conspiracy of the majority party to hide a highly effective cyber brain sclerosis vaccine from the public and keep it to themselves, all to encourage nanomachine development in that area for their own profit gain. That's right, it was the specter of capitalism all along.
Fem was right.
But after a tough call from Aramaki, Section 9 has to fight for its life, literally, but in the end, justice is served and the truth gets out on the net. We get one last conversation between Major and Aoi, who we now know is the one dubbed by others to be the Laughing Man. And then Section 9 is back on duty for its next adventure. And with that, we'll jump into the break.
Hey, Nico here in the break. Just popping in to say that while this is a podcast and we'll always do our best to describe the visuals we're commenting on, we'll also include a link in the show notes to the OSG website where you can find all the mechs, scenes, and other images we go over. The show notes and website also have content warnings as appropriate for each episode. One more thing, did you know we have a Ko-fi? We decided it was time to pass the offering plate and see if we could swing some new mics, subsidize some of our hosting fees, and justify watching Scarlett Johansson's Ghost in the Shell to ourselves, which absolutely requires bribery. Check it out at kofi.com/OSGpod. That's KO-fi.com/OSGPOD. You can give us a little walking around money with a one-time donation. And hey, whether you can come up with a few bucks or you just stick with sharing and enjoying the show, thank you. It's a real joy to make this and know you're out there listening to it. That's it. Back to the show.
Welcome back from the break. So, like last time, we're kind of gonna break this up into standalone episodes and complex episodes, which is kind of easy because the first half of part 2 is all standalone, and then the second half is all complex.
Everything I had to say in the last episode, they were like, we're going to just reorder this. We're going to set it up. We're going to do some stuff differently just for Nico. We heard her from the past.
But they still do the different colored intros and everything. And as Iris said, the line gets blurred. So you start to see elements of the overarching story in those standalone episodes. So we're going to start.
Alex, you decided to do a pervert thing.
Yeah, I did. What are you talking about?
You're starting out of order.
So I want to start out of order for this, particularly because I see the group of standalone episodes at the beginning are all generally crime procedural. There's some notes, not a lot of mecha. But there's one episode that stands out because it's going to come back and help us later, which is episode 15.
Those are my babies. Those are my baby boys.
The Tachikomas have started to talk, guys. So Kusanagi's concerns about the Tachikoma peak as they exhibit individuality and try to hide it from the humans around them, and investigate her own investigations into them. So let's talk about the Tachikomas. Let's talk about personhood and humanity. Let's do it.
No. That sounds like a great premise. We have to start with what's the first thing in this episode, which is the limp dick helicopter we will see throughout this show.
That's interesting. I thought those looked like wasps or bugs, but damn, you went right. I can't argue. Like that is a flaccid ass helicopter.
Could I ask, as somebody who hasn't watched Innocence very recently, only maybe a year ago, is this the same model of helicopter that was in Innocence, or is it different?
I think it's similar but different because technology in Innocence looks really weird.
Yeah.
Like it looks like nothing else in any of the series.
I got to double check to see if these helicopters are pulled from the original text or if they were just kind of one of those convergent evolution things.
They're all over the place. I kind of like them.
I don't get how they work. That's all I'll say.
They definitely don't work. I feel like they don't work. They've got the rotor on the side. How is that helping it? Like they've got one big one on the side.
As we learned from the helicopter story. Hey, what's up, Nico here in the edit. The episode on Isabel Falls attack helicopter story is coming. We had some audio issues with that one, but it's coming. I swear. Happy Pride Month. I love you. Trans people are braver than the troops. Bye. Instability is so important. That's why it looks ridiculous.
Oh, right. Sorry. You're so true.
So Saito is sniping using an augmented AI that can't affect the outside world. So it's a closed system, right? It has no way to output. And Saito is only cyberized 2 ways, his arm and his eye. And it is interfering with him sniping. And as they investigate, they realize that it's just trying to override his inputs constantly. That's all it's trying to do. But this is a smoke show, because what they're actually doing is investigating the Tachikomas, and they don't want the Tachikomas to know.
I want to say that the military exercise is extremely cool. I love that they use real full body androids in a ruined section of old Tokyo for this. There's a moment where Saito's sniper bullet takes the head off of the main dummy, and its mouth continues to sort of gape open and close like a dying fish as the white blood squirts out of its brain pan. Incredible
Me
shot.
when white blood squirts out of my brain pan.
Okay. All right. Yeah, somebody had to do it.
So the Tachikomas begin to notice that Major Kusanagi has been following them and investigating them, and they just want to know if everything's okay because they're little dum-dum cuties who don't understand what's going on, but do.
They're discoursing. They're posting on Tumblr.
They're posting on Tumblr. They're canceling each other. My favorite way that this episode kind of illustrates how far they've come in terms of their sapience is that they use a classic Asimovian logic paradox on a different android to disable it. It's so good.
I wrote down the quote, folks who can't even resolve the self-reference paradox are such suckers. Okay. Stop bullying the admin robots.
I felt so bad for that admin robot. Just that whole scene where
He's
they
trying
dupe her.
so hard.
Yeah, because the Tachikomas approach the fuck-ass little K-trucks that Section 9 has, which I'm obsessed with. I love them.
They look like moon rovers.
They're so
They
good.
do. They super do.
Because they want to talk to the helicopter's AI, which I love. They're curious about the world, which comes up later, too. Like, they're so curious about everything.
The curiosity is what's going to come around and sort of cinch the ending, I think.
We see a reference to the manga chapter 4 with Bato. Like, this is chapter 4. He's feeding natural oil, taking him out. It's Bato's special unit. But something that I really like is all of the Tachikomas being like, I want to see Miki.
Yeah.
I thought that this was great because they're still individuals, but they still have synced their memories. And none of them really remember which one met Miki.
To recap, Miki is the girl with the dead dog from one of the previous episodes.
Yeah, from the Tachikoma's Big Day Out in the Black
From the
Market
Big Day Out
Alley.
episode.
This is great. Even the standalone episodes, even the little goofy stories are important to the plot.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
I think that one of the things that's interesting is, this back half is super loaded with literary references, but I like that the studious like book fort Hikikomori Tachikoma is reading Flowers for Algernon, which is a story about how we assign value and validity to certain levels of intelligence while disregarding other levels of intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the Tachikomas have realized that the social is predicated on its exclusions.
Which is fucked. And Major's like, we gotta get out of here. We gotta get these fuckers out of here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's reading Anti-Oedipus later in the episode too, isn't it?
I've been
Jesus
making
Christ.
notes of all these books because I will be putting these on our osgbookshop.org book list. We need to bulk it out.
Oh boy.
Yeah, no, I love it. There's something I'll come back to, but there are a lot of quotes that, like Brian said, get thrown around in this back half, but what they accomplish is something that Ghost in the Shell Innocence couldn't accomplish, which is actually making them like sort of make sense out of the mouths of the people who are saying.
Well, they don't supplant the dialogue with the quotes. They enhance the dialogue with the quotes.
Yeah, but no, I'm obsessed with the Tachikomas. They've all got like a weird thing that they're doing. The nerd Tachikoma, like their all-time episode for weird little Tachikoma lines. I just started noting time signatures because I'm gonna be clipping all sorts of shit. Like one yelling, "Oh, memento mori." At one point, and another one just saying, like, letting out this wretched little scream.
The other thing I want to point out at this episode is, so we when they're talking about the Tachikoma, and the Tachikoma has snuck in to watch them, and is obviously camoed, and so the Major has called in Bato to yell at him about treating the recruits, and they literally are having to have an in-person conversation while having a mental one to trick that Tachikoma, and I think all of it, yeah.
First of all, shout out to fucking Bato's slick as hell use of a lighter as a mirror to check for the Tachikoma trick. The way that was animated, I was losing my mind. I looked like the gif of the guy like, oh, fuck, because it was just so good. They did it so smooth. This whole sequence is good, but it starts with Bato double-checking that the Major is correct, that there is a Tachikoma watching them, by just, like, slipping his lighter out to light a cigarette and checking it like a mirror. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's some, like, old-school military stuff, too.
Yeah.
Truly.
Bato sometimes pulls out his old Ranger stuff, and I think it's one of my favorite parts of his character. He does it later in another episode, but
I love Bato
so all of this
Me too.
comes to them having to make the decision to send the Tachikomas back to the lab because they are getting too close to sentience, and that's dangerous because Section 9 is meant to stop machine intelligences gaining sentience. That's one of their main duties.
Yeah, I think one of the cruxes of Ghost in the Shell in general too is like, okay, our mobile cannon gain sentience, but like you have people running around with dick cannons and arm guns that they cock with the thumb. Like it's not any more dangerous for a cannon to be sapient than it is for a person these days, as long as they have enough money. So
yeah, I think an interesting distinction here is that the Major repeats over and over that their AI is developing too rapidly. And like, I think that's an interesting kind of nuance to the idea that Section 9 is basically like enforcing, I don't know, some kind of like, you have to stay sub-Turing, you have to stay in this specific box, is that there's this concern because the Tachikoma are being exposed to so much. I think it's interesting because like the Tachikoma are robots with the capacity for learning that are working for the agency on like tech problems. So they are being disproportionately exposed to exceptionally weird tech situations. A lot of this, I think, starts with that brain that they find of the film director. And they wouldn't have been exposed to this if they were just like construction robots or whatever. So I love that, like, I almost understand the Major's concern more in this way, that it's not that the Tachikoma aren't allowed to develop, it's that because of their workplace, they are developing rapidly and possibly in a way that like they can't help them regulate and it could become dangerous. But I mean, the whole thing with them being sent back to the lab is so sad.
It's very sad.
It's the equivalent of raising a kid inside of a police department's like homicide division. So it's kind of like, yeah.
You're like, whoa, my kid does not need to know about viscera. Why do you know the word viscera? You need to go back to daycare.
They go and get secondary education elsewhere. Don't worry. The Major realizes she's wrong. They come back for like 5 seconds.
Was this the episode where the one talks to Bato about their concept of a god? Or was
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That was really like just seeing Bato's like
God is like a zero.
heartbroken face as this robot is like, I'm deciding to start my own religion. And Bato's like, you're not coming back from the vet, are you? It's like over.
Oh my God.
This was a really bleak set of episodes for Bato. This whole back run.
At the end of the episode, the Tachikomas are led away to the lab in single file, and they are singing Donna Donna, which is a song about lambs being led to the slaughter.
Yes. It's wild.
So sad.
In Japanese, it's about some kind of like marriage.
It's the red
thing.
shoes.
Yeah, it's the red shoes.
I thought, yeah, it's about a girl with the red shoes being sent off to a man in a foreign land. It's a apocryphal. So what it was there was a story about like a kid of missionaries who it was like she got sent off to, her parents thought she was sent off to America, but she wasn't. She was in a hospital and they were like sad, but then they weren't. I have just had coffee, so my
no,
brain
you're
is still
totally good,
waking
but
up.
it's like either
Anyways,
way, the sad
you
ass
must
fucking
understand,
song.
it's very sad, okay?
It's very
sad. What got me is that they all vow to not forget about Bato no matter what happens to their programming. That's what got me.
Bato is entering an era which I'm calling Bato's turbo depression.
Imagine your boss said you have to kill all 6 of your dogs right now.
You have to do it. I just want to call out as a moment of levity the saran wrap noise that the webbing makes as the Tachikoma lowers itself from eavesdropping. I was like, oh fuck, this is so fucked. Because the very cool thing that Alice mentioned is that the dual conversation is happening where the Major and Bato are communicating in their minds and then out loud having a different conversation about these recruits that Bato is supposed to have been training, so that the Tachikoma who is lip reading is only getting that part of the conversation. So that whole thing was sick as hell. And I was like, fuck, my Tachikomas, my beautiful babies are so fucked. And then there's like a loud saran wrap noise.
I also want to just point out that from this point on, the Tachikomatic Days shorts, all of the Tachikomas have halos except for one, which has the Shinto paper cap ghost thing on its head.
You can't. That's not allowed.
They're in Tachikoma paradise.
Oh my God.
Moving on to the second part. So we're going to talk about all of the 5 standalone complex episodes because they're all just crime of the week little guys, and we can kind of
So we're going
just
back to 14, or did we
Yes.
skip 14?
We're going back to 14.
We
Okay,
cannot
got
be
it, got
skipping
it.
14. If Alice had tried, I would have killed her because
That's Mechs, baby.
New Woman just dropped. Also, she said the fucking line. I immediately took screenshots when we have a woman arrive on screen.
Let me give the synopsis of what we're covering and we'll get into them. So, episode 14, Automated Capitalism. A Chinese communist assassin comes to Japan to take out a stock market mogul whose automatic systems are still running even after he's turned out to be already dead.
Mm-hmm. Sorry, what is the line? I missed this.
The line is, she arrives on screen, looks into the plate glass and says, this city is haunted by a specter, the specter of capitalism.
This city is haunted by a specter, the specter of capitalism.
Oh shit, I missed that.
The way I backed up to screenshot, I'm like, I am going to make a drop. I'm going to do a whole thing. But I was just like, not only is a new woman just dropped, which I'm always happy about, she said the line and I just lost it.
So episode 16, Chinks in the Armor of the Heart. Bato's undercover mission to take down a boxer acting as a spy and also have an intense, unfathomable depression spiral in. Then we have...
Are there different episode names
Yes.
in Japanese than in English?
Yes.
Okay, that explains it.
So,
Never mind. My cool
in
note for this
Japanese,
is
it's
ruined, but keep going.
AG20.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's the chemistry notation for silver oxide. Literally tarnished silver.
Oh, that's so good.
Okay, I'll start calling out the Japanese ones too, because they're pretty good. The specter of capitalism is just yen, euro, dollar sign. Yes.
It's really
So yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Episode 17, the true reason for the unfinished love affair, or angel share. In London, Chief Aramaki gets mixed up in a wine bank heist between the mob, the government, and the crooked British police.
So cool. So cool.
Number 18, assassination duet, or lost heritage. The son of a dead war veteran turns assassin as he and his father's cyberbrains are connected to take revenge on a Chinese official visiting an Okinawan war memorial. And then 19, embraced by a disguised net, or captivated. Human organ trafficking is stopped only when a corrupt politician's daughter gets caught in the trafficking. So these are all little standalone episodes. Anybody want to talk about anything in particular besides the shotgun arm with gold coins in it, which is Mecha?
I have a note here, which I regret, but I have to be honest. I have to be standing my truth, which is I typed in all caps, codename Fem, and baby, I'm codename Butch. I was not normal about this woman. I was not normal about this episode. It's fantastic. We find out Togusa watches MTV Cribs, and his wife is a day trader.
At the end of this episode, someone steals 80,000 yen from Togusa, and it never gets mentioned again.
Well, his wife made 100,000, so technically it's just like, oh, whoa,
So
weird.
the explanation there is that is what the systems were running. The automated systems the guy
Yeah.
left behind was just skimming off the top of stock transactions when people couldn't notice.
Yeah.
Which I think is
It's,
a cool little note.
It's a penny shaver worm, not unlike the worm featured in popular 1995 film Hackers,
Hackers.
director Ian Softly, starring Johnny Lee Miller and Angelina Jolie.
Do you mean Superman
reference,
2?
No. The poster looked like this.
Yes! Oh my god! Holy shit, I need that shirt so bad.
For listeners, Iris J just stood up with an OG Hackers shirt.
Everyone's wearing their uniforms.
I can't believe you got the Ghost in the Taco Bell shirt. That is so cool.
The other thing I do want to call out in episode 14. So this is when we have the situation. So the Major opens the episode.
Situation.
No, this is the situation. This is the only time I want to touch on it. But the Major starts the episode with the rest of the gang doing a bust. She's wearing coveralls because she's posing as a garbage collector. And she gets knocked through a window into trash, and so her garbage collector coveralls become disgusting. So then she has to take a debrief meeting with Aramaki and the rest of the gang in her underwear. Now, this is funny to me because finally someone comments on the Major's outfit. And it's while she is wearing panties, but she is also wearing a high-cut sports bra and camisole. The only difference between this and her usual outfit is 2 inches of stomach and the lack of a jacket. It's so funny to me that this is what prompts it.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is he was like, Aramaki's like, are you trying to capture my... It's like, okay, this is a note for the writer. That was not Aramaki.
Yeah.
That is not an Aramaki line.
He did not say
Just
that.
a quick note.
She doesn't have one extra uniform. I love a woman who owns one outfit because she has to be able to leave in a moment's notice.
She does have a drawer of meticulously organized underwear,
Yeah,
but
we'll
she
see that
only
later.
has the one uniform.
It's not like it would take up a lot of space in her locker. It's a leotard.
So I thought it was just like I honestly saw it and I was like, oh, that's just workout clothes, right? Like, that's just modern workout clothes.
It was so funny to me. I'm like, oh, so that's what the Major wears like normally. It's just like a sports bra. I'm like, icon. But no, I just wanted to bring that up because it was so funny. We had this great conversation about gender presentation and elective representation and like, what would your cyber body look like? And then Aramaki, again, I support Brian just being like, this was not canon or whatever, but like, Aramaki undercut all of it, and then later we talk about it again in a weird way, but like this weird moment was just so... Anyway, I just thought it was funny that the Major, when left to her druthers, wears like a huge sports bra.
I only have two small other notes about this episode. Bato laughing manning the robot dogs is all-timer.
Bato's so happy to have
B,
free dogs.
I'm not attracted to women, so my favorite thing about Fen is the fact that she cocks her arm gun with the thumb. That's Mechs.
It rules, and she specifically went to a money changer to get 500 yen coins because what she is loaded into this gun instead of buckshot is fucking yen coins to kill this dude. Oh
Yeah.
Because they're coated with gold. Die by the gold that you hoard.
Also, 500 yen coins are the biggest coins that are in Japanese yen. They're like bigger than quarters. They're sizable. You got to the thing I was going to say, which was Bato and the dogs is so important. The fact that his original plan is like, he sees these dogs and he's like, man, I don't want to shoot a bunch of dogs. I'll just run really fast and get bit while I'm hacking them. And that'll be fine.
I love that. This is so Bato coded to be like, I could absolutely destroy all of these robots that have no ghost in them, but I like dogs.
He's a sentimental son of a bitch. He looks at their serrated chainsaw mouths and says, that's all you got. I love Bato more than anyone.
I love Bato more than anyone. He comes running up to Togusa like, this mansion is full of free dogs, and I just...
So I do want to say one thing, which is at first I thought the arm shotgun was like an assassin tool because like when it's folded down, it would probably just look like a mechanical arm on a scanner. Like you could hide those mechanics. And I'm like, oh yeah, obviously it would be hard to get guns into Japan. And then like 4 episodes later, somebody gets a full sniper rifle imported into Japan.
You know, that'll happen.
No rules, just right.
I just want to say Tachikoma deserves 1 gold bar. I think they should
Tachikoma deserves 1 gold bar.
Tachikoma have 1
They
gold
should
bar.
get one as a snack.
Yeah.
They should get one as a snack.
Kusanagi saying, where did you get that is the funniest, like, me when my cat has something in her mouth.
Me when Bran has found whatever wretched piece of trash is rolled under the sofa and decided to play with that instead of his 500 toys. I love it. I do just want to note very quickly, we talked about this at the top, but at the end of this standalone episode 14, we find out, of course, that one, Togusa watches MTV Cribs, and that also Togusa's wife day trades, and says one of my favorite lines, which is that all the housewives are day trading now, which is so funny.
All of the best housewives are day trading.
Peak housewife behavior. But the stock that gets sold, or no, the stock that gets purchased at the end, I didn't believe that was an automated process for a while because the stock that gets sold or purchased is Serrano Genomics. So I immediately was like, oh shit, laughing man shit. Anyway, that's all I wanted to bring up there at the end.
My only note, this episode is just about how Bato's losing everything that's important to him. Very sad.
The beginning of 16 is actually where we get that singing part in the lineup.
Also, fuck that guy, right? This guy just kind of sucks, right?
He sucks. Yeah, he's a dick to his wife. I hate this guy. Anyway.
But who cares? We're going to Britain. That's what's important.
I was going to say, I looked this up. It's actually really interesting. The homemade beverage that his wife makes, medovuha, that is real. It's a Slavic drink made by essentially mulling mead, honey to make mead. It's like a mead adjacent beverage.
It looks delicious.
Yeah. I thought the end with the bottle of medovuha and the case of organic oil really made this feel like the most noir style episode in the whole series.
Yeah.
Episode 16 fucked me up. Like the prospect of like Bato making a friend, like both of these men are clearly so lonely and tied up in intelligence work. And then like they're bonding over the intricate rituals of beating the shit out of each other. And then, you know, like the daughter is clearly, wife is clearly so glad that like her husband has made like one friend. She is like trying to cement this friendship, and like Bato obviously just watched all of his kids go to be put down. Like they are two men who are so deeply depressed, but the job is what's important. Like they have to thwart this spy operation. I also have to call out that Bato is living a one-sided fake marriage, AU. Where he has a photo.
that was my I have two small things before we get to 17. One, Bato has a fake wife and kids. His fake wife and kids are the Major and Togasa's kids. The other thing is the Tachikomatic days. Did anybody watch this and know what's happening in this? Because the Tachikomatic days in this one is a silent film. They have a Jameson bot holding up title cards that are in Japanese. I cannot find a translation anywhere. And in the background, two Tachikomas are doing a lightsaber fight. I need to know what this is about.
So I'll send you it. My copy is translated, and the idea is that it is a trailer for the new series. Now the Tachikomas are all dead, which is that it's going to be about Jameson now. Anyways, I also wanted to bring up that like we moved past it, but like it's I think it's really interesting when you watch Bato later on during the height of the Laughing Man assassination stuff. But like one really interesting feature about Bato is he's shown as this kind of like a little, almost a comic relief type guy in the first half of the series. But that's because he really struggles with being pigeonholed as a fighting machine, not least because he is literally a fighting machine. And so he keeps so many useless tics and personality flaws about himself so that he can still feel like a human person with a personality. It kills him when he sees other people, and I use Mechs as people in this, failing at hitting that balance when he is trying so hard every day of his life to meet it.
I think it's a great no. I'll talk about this more later when we talk about the watch stuff, but his philosophy of like relying on external mnemonics to like reassure yourself that you're human it's peak. I love it so much. Not related to anything. I streamed Ghost in the Shell standalone complex for the PS2 a couple weeks ago, twitch.tv/OSG_pod.
Wow, you remembered.
I remembered because of this. That game sucks. You can hear me. You can watch me struggle with that game for 2.5 hours. But the shining moment of all time is I got to hack into and pilot and run around as a Jameson. Squeaky wheels, little like hacky, shocky things, like full Metal Gear Mark II, but as a Jameson. It was incredible. That's all I have to say. Anyway,
I love it.
Do you guys want to go to Terrorism Con?
Let's go to Terrorism Con in good old UK.
merry old England. So I think this is cool. So in an era of digital currency, things that have intricate value that is given to them by people that you can't easily mimic. So wine trading.
Intrinsic.
Anyway.
I love you so much.
Aramaki and Kusanagi are meeting with the SAS, who, throw offline, had the first cyberized combat unit in the world, which Kusanagi has now trained with twice, which is wild to me.
That's wild. It wasn't America.
American Empire really fucked off in the war.
Yeah.
But Aramaki needs 2 hours because he's got to go meet an old friend, a.k.a. Aramaki got some riz with him.
GF. British GF.
Gets embroiled in this heist that is just so much, but also, have you guys ever seen the movie Inside Man? It's just the plot of Inside Man, which was stolen from this show.
I have not seen Inside Man.
That's so funny as a concept. Yeah, they stuff, I forget the actor's name. They stuff him in a room that they make.
Clive Owen gets
Clive Owen, that's
hidden behind a wall with the diamonds, and then weeks later walks out of the bank. That's how they get away with the.
Good.
It's really good. Oh, spoilers for a movie from 2009, real quick. For the movie Inside Man. Anyway, I just really like this. I like Aramaki figuring out that, they're trying to kill us. And then I love that Major Kusanagi is like, well, I'm just going to do my own thing because I'm just always down.
Kusanagi walks a tightrope between international incident and like she assaults a British police officer, takes his uniform, leaves him to like sit in the sewer, I guess. We don't see that guy ever again. It's good.
You're forgetting the most important part of that, which is that she attracts the British police officer being like, oh, I'm just a horny lady and I have a personal problem.
My note side note, here's the Major deploys strategic tit to obtain hitman disguise.
Strategic tit.
Literally pulling like Bugs Bunny, like sexy lipstick subterfuge on this guy.
So just Aramaki repeatedly owns everyone on the scene with facts and logic. He's so competent and so hard. I fucking love this episode. It's so good.
I think it's like Aramaki isn't just smart in this episode, though he is smart. He's also really, really crafty and like silver-tongued at negotiating too with these guys. He recognizes immediately that these two guys are not very high up in the organization, and that if he can apply just the right leverage in just the right places, he can get some wiggle room here. I think that often in, and I watch a lot of anime, I think often in anime, yeah, well, I'll take that. Often in anime, old people are kind of relegated to either being these sort of like wizened old mentor figures, comedy relief, or the most badass, inhuman monster fighters known to mankind. So it's really nice to see an older character, you know, have realistic limits, but also be smart, be experienced, use his appearance of being like, I'm a little old man, to kind of get one over on people around him, and also to have a subplot where he has like an old flame that is trying to rekindle this romantic interest. He's like a full person. You don't stop being a person when you get older. I don't know. I just love when stuff like that pops up, and this is a great example of that.
This sets up an arc that Aramaki goes through that we see pay off in the Laughing Man episodes.
Yes.
Which is, Aramaki is struggling with the fact that he gets approached every once in a while by people he cares about quite a lot, and they ask for his help. And he has drawn such a strong division between what he does for his job and what his job skill set is and everything, and his personal relationships. And this is going to be tested a few more times in this series before he finally comes to the conclusion that, like, if you have the moral compass, you can walk this line without just having to turn everyone you care about away and putting them in a bad situation, I think.
I also think it's funny too. Like I agree. I also think it's funny that like 2 or 3 times in a row, someone will approach him and ask him to like use his power and privilege to help them, and he refuses. And then it turns out that whatever he's doing ends up like ends up having to do that anyway. I do think that is funny.
I think it's funny. Yeah.
He collects favors just by doing his job correctly. Like we see it in Embraced by a Disguised Net in the human trafficking episode, where like he's like, I absolutely need to just do this by the book, and it ends up being the correct thing where everyone loves him afterwards.
Yeah, I think it's evidence that like Aramaki can lead Section 9 because he has a strong sense of integrity.
I think the fact that he is, besides Togasa, the only other pretty much, he's cyberized brain, but that's it for Aramaki.
Yeah, but he's walking the same line as Bato is, in a way, because he still has to balance being a machine for a tool of the government, of law.
A bureaucratic war machine.
Right, and being a person who still has a lot of loose ends out in the world.
And I love that we get to we get to kind of look at one of his personal interests, which is wine. Like he's actually interested in wine. Like I like when characters have hobbies and things that they're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So how much do you guys know about wine?
Not that much.
I studied quite a bit about it because I thought I was going to be like a big wine guy when I was 21. I thought that was going to be my thing. And then I tasted it, and it turns out I have the gene where tannins taste like absolute dog shit to you. So I can't drink coffee, and every wine I tasted the same, and it was bad. So
I love Nico very much. Classic ADHD story, invents a bunch of time into something and then find out it's not going to work out.
It turns out I prefer moonshine, which is great.
Do you know what the angel's share is in wine?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could you explain it and how it applies to Aramaki's love relationships? Go.
I was gonna say if Iris wanted to take a stab because you nodded, but
Oh yeah, well the angel's share is when you when wine is aging in its casks. The term refers to the amount of wine that evaporates when you cask up wine, or the term I originally heard in context of whiskey or any sort of liquor that you're going to be aging for a while. Inevitably, you are going to come out with less than you started with. This term is known as the angel's share.
God tax.
And how does this apply to Aramaki?
Well, because there's this lady is coming to him with like trying to rekindle lost love, but some of that love has inevitably had to evaporate in the years since they both bottled it up.
That's so beautiful. I love that. I also love Alice being a full college literary professor, like trying to ask us leading questions in a seminar.
Yeah. I would also say it's interesting. I was thinking about it as Aramaki himself. Because, like, he has bottled himself up in his job. He is so focused on this specific thing. He has just held this position for so long. What he's kind of lost is, like, these parts of life. I was thinking about it that way,
Oh, and that's why he's
is-
short.
Yeah, that's why he's short. No, I mean, it's like a little bit sad what you give up for your career. And I liked that being kind of an analogy here in that way, too. So,
Anyway, about that ring you've been wearing. Oh, I just have this on. I'm actually completely single and available, and if you had ever asked me, we could have hooked up, Aramaki.
the Major's trying to wingman for him. The Major's like,
So
we can put
hardcore.
off by going a date. You can't get this through customs. You probably drink. I got you a wine bottle opener. And Aramaki's like, I would rather drink expensive wine with my subordinate.
Oh, I love that. By
Can we
the way,
talk about Kusanagi buying the wine bottle opener?
yes, that was so sweet. I was so touched.
So,
That was really good.
the relationship as father and daughter is always very heartwarming to me, but also whenever Kusanagi puts value on anything outside of the net is just a wonderful experience for me. So she goes shopping, she looks around, she picks one out, and she just kind of looks at it, and we see it with the watch later, but in a way where she's like getting things from Bato about like putting value on physical objects. She's doing this in a way to be very human with Aramaki, her mentor. And I think it's just a really cool... Is the corkscrew a mech? You interface with the wine bottle with it.
No,
and
but what I'll say that I really liked was the salesperson walks up to the Major and is like, who are you buying this for? Like, I can customize it. Like, what kind of wine do they like? I can engrave it. And the Major's like, no, I will just take it as it is. And I think it's interesting, with what we find out later, I think the Major puts a lot more weight on that whisper from the ghost, that instinctual feeling, rather than trying to go through convention. And I think it's interesting because, like, she could have described, like, this is a gift from my boss and my organization, and he really likes wine and he has these connections, and probably would have been sold, like, a very nice corkscrew with an engraving on it and everything. But she saw this corkscrew and she thought of Aramaki. And that's what matters. That's the externalized memory and the externalized emotion.
it's the sign of a ghost. You know what else is a sign of a ghost? Getting a computer from your dead dad that you open up. Anyway, episode 18 is the assassination plot episode. I think this one's worth talking about because of the nature of what a ghost is in this series. So, son of Aramaki's old war buddy, who is dead after, revolutionary ideas, starts to get radicalized.
No, I believe what kills him is cyberbrain sclerosis. Because he was one of the early adopters of the cyberbrains in this conflict.
And so his son gets radicalized because he receives the documents that his father had been like researching and looking into. And I think is a very prescient thought in 2025 to come back to a young man getting radicalized by the ideals of their father. So he basically connects and dubs over his dad's memories onto him, which gives him this drive for revenge to do this assassination, because as an old man, he wouldn't have done it. But by melding with his son's mind and that young sense of justice, which we see in The Laughing Man later on in the series, he goes ahead and tries to do it, which is like, eventually you age out of those ideas, I guess is the concept. But I love that their minds are melded, and Section 9 stops it at the last moment. But to make sure that this kid can live a normal life after this, they have to implant the memory of a successful assassination. So after the Major jacks into him, we get a scene where he twists the bouquet and explodes, and that's an implanted memory. And their idea is that will give the overlapped ghost the feeling of succeeding so that the dad's ghost can be exorcised, basically, from the sun.
There's a lot of interesting stuff happening here with dubbing and things like that.
We'll forget all of this or be able to live with this because of this, but it's all they can think of to save him.
I do want to circle back to the beginning. Again, this is another situation where a personal relationship of Aramaki's approaches him for help. And in this case, I think it's escalating in terms of stuff that Aramaki should probably help with, right? Like, he's in England, it's outside his jurisdiction in the last episode. Like, it's a little bit of a big ask. But this is a family friend who is coming to him and talking about, like you said, the radicalization of her younger brother, and is like, I don't know what to do. He's reading all of Dad's old military manuals. He's, like, talking to himself. He's taking these strange calls at all hours of the day. Like, frankly, this is a little bit more justified to step in, but Aramaki, again, draws that really strong line. And always respectfully, and I think the people who receive a no from him tend to accept it well. But, like, this is another case where he ends up pulled into it once it's already escalated past a certain point.
My harem did point out that there is nothing stopping Aramaki from giving her the advice of, you should probably talk to a doctor. This is very concerning what I'm hearing. He's just like, no help at all. You're on your own. If my old friend's daughter, who I knew growing up, was like, my brother is going through this, I'd be like, you need to talk to a psychologist about him immediately.
Yeah, I thought that. I feel like one of the big notes I made was that, like, I'm not an expert in domestic terrorism, but I feel like if the kid has one of those bullet squishers that make bullets set up in his bedroom and he's squishing the bullets like every night late into the early morning, that's like a sign that you gotta talk, because people don't just like keep those around, right?
Yeah, he set up a reloading bench.
Yeah, nobody's like making their own bullets like in their bedroom.
I am. Speak for yourself.
No, I would believe that from Alice more than you. Alice up late in the night, squishing those bullets.
Absolutely not. That shit smells terrible.
Oh, that's what they're calling it these days.
No, I something I love here is just that, like, one, we're getting information on either World War III or World War IV. I have to assume it's World War IV because, like, I assume, the veterans of III might already be dead or
I had a question about this.
Yeah.
Because I went and looked up, there is a Kagoshima War Museum, but it's specifically about World War II kamikaze fighters. It's supposed to be a memorial for them. So it has nothing to do with China. So this must be a World War IV thing, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that this is supposed to, I know that this is supposed to draw parallels not to an Okinawan war memorial, but to, I think it's Yasukuni Shrine in Tokyo, Japan, which is traditionally a shrine for honoring war dead, and is a controversial spot that right-wing nationalists love to show their support for the nation of Japan by doing like photo ops and stuff of them honoring the dead there. It's a very like going to the shrine is kind of code for I am going to push hardline nationalism in my political career. If my research is correct.
Well, I think it could be like a blend of those ideas.
If it's not directly that, it is. I could tell it's inspired by that.
Just to give the context, because this is explained in across Ghost in the Shell, but World War III was a limited nuclear exchange. Japan was nuked, as were many countries, including Okinawa. So this is a nuclear war memorial. And then World War IV was a Vietnam-style conflict, so it was entirely proxy wars, kind of in anywhere but first world nations. So, but that was a non-nuclear conflict. So this is a nuclear war memorial.
But yeah, one thing they mention in this episode is that a lot of different nationals died in this attack, which makes sense. If it was a limited nuclear exchange, then like there may have been different fighters at Okinawa when it was nuked. And then like, that's why this Chinese official wants to go there. But what seems to have compelled this like cyber ghost possession, so to speak, is that the father knew that how this official and how the Chinese government, it seems, was connected to an atrocity that happened and to the death of his wife and his son's mother. That is part of what, like, it drove him to want to pursue justice. And then when his mind is kind of connected to his sons in that way, it evokes that passion that it's like, there is no response to take but like extreme response, like to get like blood justice as opposed to any kind of political justice that we see like Aramaki extract later. And I do really like this. This is an interesting thing, like we said, about like old soldiers versus young soldiers. I don't think that it's like radical inclinations naturally go away as you get older. I think it's you have more to lose.
Oh, yeah.
When you're 16 and you've already lost both your mom and your dad, and it doesn't seem like you're paying very much attention to your sister who cares about you a lot, it may seem like you're the only person in the world. And that's a lot easier to justify getting yourself killed in an assassination attack than it is if you are a father who has all this military experience, who knows this stuff and wants justice, but you have a family, you have a home that you've purchased, you have a life, whatever's left of it after all of this stuff. Like, I really like, there's a call that the kid / the father makes in the back of a truck on the way to this assassination. He calls Aramaki, and the kid is speaking, but it's with the father's voice.
Yeah.
And he's trying to explain to Aramaki what has happened, and the fact that, like, despite the fact that he, as an older man, would not have made this judgment, he, as a melded, like, creature with his son, cannot stop this thirst for vengeance, and is just kind of like giving Aramaki the heads up, I think in hopes of like getting himself stopped.
Yeah.
It's really compelling. The whole thing is so compelling. Like, and again, like Alice said at the end, they have to basically write over his memories, and there's no guarantee that who wakes up will remember his sister.
The implication is that even though they were able to stop him, like he'll probably never be the same.
Yeah.
So
it's so
which is fucked
wild.
up.
Yeah. You have to keep him from ever reading Wikipedia or researching China, like recent news about China ever after this, because if that soap bubble pops, then like who knows if that ghost is going to come back or whatever, you know?
The lesson that this episode teaches us is very important, which is the surefire way for an assassination is to not give any credence to how you're going to escape and to get up very close to your enemy and kill them without any fear of the fact that you're going to die. Great lesson for coming years, guys.
There's no way to know when that could be applicable, but
Who will do it? So
human trafficking. When does it affect us? That's right, when it affects a politician.
I have my first note for this episode because I take notes while I watch these. My first note here just says, now that's a big bato. What did I mean by that?
I don't
my
know.
first note says more genes major, so I'm glad we're focusing on the important stuff.
To be fair, the camera angles in the first part of the scene, he's just leaning on this car and he's giant. That's all I can think. But
Yeah, I think that was right. I was like, that's a big bato. Wow.
Bigger Bato theory.
Russian Spyovich is part of a mafia conspiracy to abduct women and steal their organs.
Brian is raising his hand.
Yes, Brian.
Teacher, her name is Kruzkowa. Also, I vote that we call her Eye Patch Cruelty Mom, because that's all she ever is. Or sorry, Eye Patch Cruelty Grandma, because we find out she's 80 years old.
Okay.
He's that anime loli character that's like, they're actually 80 years old.
They finally did that trope, but with an actual hot person, which like, wow. Great work. We figured it out.
I'm always asking for people to MILF that thing, but they only MILFed her internally. I'm like, come on.
They MILFed her ghost.
She could have been like a grandma baddie with a knife gun arm. That would have been so sick.
I that's my only complaint, though. She's incredibly sick. Yeah. More women.
And like super racist, which I think is kind of funny.
Yes,
because like she's a hyper Russian nationalist, and we get one line about from her about her concerns about how much Asian people are reproducing.
Yeah, now she is a little problematic. That is, I want to be clear about that.
Baddie.
but it's so the politician in Key says that these abductions aren't happening, and we'll get more into human trafficking in Second Gig. It becomes a major thing with the refugee crisis. But this is another Aramaki has to be like, hey, I don't approve of the corruption that you're doing because you're obviously on the take of these mafiosos and they're just coming back at you for something you did. But I want your daughter to be safe, and by extension, all of the other women.
Guess what time it is? It's time for Nico recently read a nonfiction book and is going to mention it on the podcast. So the book that I read was The Ghosts of the Tsunami, which is a book about the 2011 tsunami that struck Japan. It's written by a foreign journalist who was living in Japan at the time. And there's a line that really struck me at the end of that book where he talks about a sort of cultural relationship with the government that he struggles to conceptualize as a Brit, because he's like, we would be tearing each other apart and we are some of the most uncharitable people in the world, but we also like really try to we have a lot of political fights, right? And Japanese people, as a general rule, not always, but as a general rule, he characterized it as like treating government malfeasance like a natural disaster that is horrific, but that like cannot be stopped. And that is something I kept thinking about in this episode. And then as we wrap up the Laughing Man arc, there is so much like despair around the state of the government, around how politics functions and what the cost is for getting something done in politics, and whether like politics serves people at all. And I kept thinking about that throughout this episode too, because it's so much about everyone knows something bad is happening and everyone holds it against. Like, I couldn't believe that there were people who recognized the daughter of this official who was doing this denial on site. People care about this.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's like two great moments in this episode where earlier on, like, the former PM Kanzaki basically says something to the effect of, I didn't think the leopards would ever eat my face.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then later on, while his daughter is waiting in this like box truck full of kidnapped women, one of them recognizes her and is like, hey, you're that girl whose dad is getting his face eaten by leopards right now, right? Holy shit.
But he always denied the leopards existed? Fuck you.
Yeah.
Why are you in here? Like,
Here
oh
we
my
are.
God.
Welcome to the leopard cage. Yeah, it's really wild. And like thinking about that specific relationship, like, again, I wouldn't call myself an expert, but I have to wonder how much of that sort of general attitude is influenced by the failure of the kind of the 60s and 70s leftist university demonstrations in Japan, and how kind of the very capitalist right-wing me generation leaning attitude of the 80s during the bubble kind of came out of having that socialist attitude stomped out of them.
I also think there's a cultural like holdover where like, things that people do as part of a family affect the whole family, not just internally, but like as, sins of the father. The things that this guy did politically are going to be associated with his last name for like generations to come. And so like, of course, people are automatically going to associate the daughter with that. To talk about the mech of it all really quickly, Kruzkoa has one arm that is a shotgun and a sword, and another arm.
Oh,
hold on. The other arm is the bomb, because she has that arm. The other arm, Togusa tries to do a throw on her, and her arm just dislodges and starts blinking. And then Bato's like, yo,
throw the arm, homie.
Yeah.
It's really good because I think it's four weapons, because she deploys the hand on the bomb arm to try to stab. I think either Bato or Togusa.
Yeah,
and then it's just the arm with the wrist, which I think is why Togusa thinks he can go in for the throw. And then, like you said, the arm comes off in his hand. She is a weapon. I love her.
And like the fact that like her arm is detachable like to me anyways said that like, oh, there is like, this isn't just one special body that she's gotten. She probably goes through these things at like a clip if she's constantly hucking body parts at other people.
I think it's cool that she clearly always orders them with only one eye.
God, this whole thing, she is a Metal Gear character.
That's her mnemonic, is she's missing an eye.
Before we get into the next part, I want to kind of highlight one thing about this series, which is generally Section 9 brings in their marks alive. They arrest everybody in this series of movies alive. They knock her out, she surrenders, right? Like, they're generally leaving people alive. Let's keep that in our heart.
Yeah, they even capture Fem. Like, even though Fem, like, has a shotgun arm and, like, got very close to an assassination, like, they capture her. You're right. So, they tend to capture.
Speaking of that, and this episode too, a lot of what we see in SAC is a reimagination of what happened in the movies or the manga. So, like, the Fen fight, where the Major is in camo and breaks her arm and pulls her over. It evokes that first movie. And they
Evoke is a good word.
They pull these threads a lot about things that we know as fans who have seen other parts of this media, but do it in a way that isn't like, hey, remember the greatest hit? It's just like, well, the Major uses subterfuge. She uses optical camo. This is how they, and at the end of the day, they are cops and idealized cops who don't want to kill people, right? Like ACAB, but it's showing this and it keeps re-evoking it.
That's a good thing. I wanted to re-mention it because I haven't rung this bell since the first time we talked about Ghost in the Shell, which is just to say that yes, ACAB, I totally agree. Also, and police in Japan come from a very, very different social context than police in America do. Just putting that out there.
They're way more overfunded, which is scary to say.
Yes.
They have a hierarchy based on your bureaucratic standing and not your ability. They have the most special weapons and tactics teams for riots of any modernized country with a top 10 GDP.
So about those why don't people protest more in Japan discussion? Yeah.
Because there's like 5 million cops to one person.
Oh, I was just going to ask if you knew anything about like because like there's obviously a relationship there between the fact that Japan's military was like forcibly liquidated, right?
What you get is a lot of, and this is going to get really deep into the weeds, so give me a minute. So from the time of the shogunate.
I just need the clip of, so from the time of the shogunate, comma, audible comma.
So basically, the shogunate were the ruling class. The Arasashi were their regular beat cops. And that's where we get modern Japanese police. It's why you see the police outside of stations holding a stick. That's all going back to Arasashi foot soldiers, which are just, you grab a guy from a farm, you give him cheap armor and a spear, and you tell him he's better than everyone and can do whatever he wants. So
yeah, so like most cops.
And so modern Japanese cop culture is toxic military culture that can exist. So the Japanese ground self-defense force, marine self-defense force, air self-defense force, they exist and have their own power struggle, much like the Imperial Army and Imperial Navy of World War II that could not get along, but they have no external conflict. So what they do is they invest that conflict into their intelligence agencies. And it's why you see a lot of, Japan doesn't have as many rules of like, the CIA can't operate on American soil, which doesn't happen, right, guys?
Definitely not.
Of course not.
But in the police, and we see it in Ghost in the Shell, and I love it, the different sections, right? So Section 1 hates Section 9, who hates Section 6, who hates Section 5. They all exist, but they're all in a power struggle. They don't work together because everyone wants to be the big dick on campus. And it's why you get this, and we get it later in the series with the Special Forces bill, of like, there's a ebb and flow in Japan of changing legislature to affect how you can use your violence. So Article 10 in Japan is such a hot topic. So Article 10 of their constitution, they can't have an offensive-based army. That's great. Why does Japan have 3 aircraft carriers? Oh, they're for self-defense. And we've litigated these things back and forth and moved the bar, and everything is in this gray. And so Ghost in the Shell and the writing of
Masamune Shiro?
Shiro really interrogates the natural end game of this, which is the Japanese government is so entrenched with this party system and this corruption that to pull it from that is basically impossible. And we see it in the series because it will all just slowly fill the void with different toxic official organizations over time.
Sure. This is how we know that we are living in the Ghost in the Shell future, because the only thing that can kind of shake that up is some kind of like device, some kind of doohickey, perhaps aimed at Shinzo Abe.
Yeah.
But you get all of this to say, you get Aoi, who is the poster child of that frustration with the unfair world around you and being raised in an unfair and unjust society. And we'll get into it as we jump into part 3. Sorry for my Shogunate 15, guys.
No. I deliberately pulled that out of you because I wanted to talk about it. But I just, for a quick moment of levity, this is one of my favorite Tachikomatic days. There's a Tachikoma with the halo and a Tachikoma with the Japanese burial hat. Mm-hmm. The one with the halo does a Mazinger rocket punch, and then the one with the hat tries to do it, but everything but the fist explodes. And it made me, I kind of always wanted a Tachikoma Gunpla, but the way that the Tachikoma explodes into like literally individual little Gunpla parts, I really want one now. Like, it's so good.
Oh, that reminds me, Nico, did you open that webpage and search for Tachikomas during this string of episodes? I just gotta ask.
I can't believe that they're not currently in print. Currently, you can only really get them on eBay.
Secondhand.
Like, they are not in print. I was really wanting one. I want one, and I want to get a little gold bar and a little pile of books. I want a couple of different ones so that I can do that. I need to do the construction paint.
I was about to
need
say.
to do it.
I was literally about to say, you're going to do the construction one. You're going to paint
There's a note I have later where I'm like, they auctioned these? I would have bought one for the farm. Like, I would have just had a tractor coma.
Little sun hat. Yeah.
So,
oh my god! And where the howitzer shell's supposed to go, I would have put like a really big stalk of wheat.
Obsessed. Okay, guys, let's head to Star Child Coffee because we've got to get some exposition in. So, part 3, we get back into the complex, the Laughing Man complex. Episodes 20, 21, 22, and 23 explore and explain and expose the conspiracy behind the Laughing Man. So, episode 20.
Nope. You know what time it is.
What's that?
It's what book Nico's been reading that's relevant to the episode. No,
What's
I'm kidding.
What's the music sting for this? What's the music? We've got to pick a music sting for this.
I don't know, but I just wanted to say that like me and Togusa are shaking hands, reading Catcher in the Rye to try to understand what's happening in the show better.
Did you? Did you?
I never read it in high school. I never read it in high school. I did not finish the whole book because I had to watch like a whole anime and like do a bunch of other stuff. But I did start reading Catcher in the Rye because it was just one I missed in high school. And it is so funny how much it like comes up. And also how much that book is about like social alienation in such a way that like I felt really rewarded. If for some reason you haven't read Catcher in the Rye and you like this show, worth checking out because I think it does add some even more depth to why like Aoi would like identify with Holden Caulfield and like incorporate so much of this into his identity. It was really cool and really rewarding. Yeah. But there's a moment later where Togusa grabs a revolver and an annotated copy of The Catcher in the Rye and shoves him in his hoodie pocket and then heads out. And I was like, oh, he just like me for real.
I was going to say, it is great how much during the flashback scene with Aoi and the Serrano Genomics CEO I don't want to just call him Serrano.
Oh, that's his name.
Is that his name?
Yeah,
okay.
Call him Serrano.
Yes, Eugene Serrano,
that is his
right?
name.
Mr. Serrano.
So his name is Gene Serrano, head of Serrano Genomics. His name is Gene. Just
Gene Serrano of Serrano
determinism.
It's like if Steve Jobs' name was computer.
His name's Tim Apple. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, you're right.
or if the CEO of Nintendo is named Doug Bowser, that would be weird.
That would be weird. Yeah.
Anyways, when Aoi is speaking 6 years ago, he basically has adopted a speech pattern that is very similar to Holden Caulfield's from the book. And I think if you actually watch the English dub, they play this up a little bit more.
They really lean into it in the dub.
Whereas how he is now, he's basically completely dropped that from his affectation.
Yeah,
except
he's
for
grown up a little
using
bit.
the word phony occasionally. Yeah.
He literally says, I've matured.
I think when you're younger, you're more likely to invest your identity into something that means a lot to you as a media property. Not to totally put Iris on blast with the sick tattoos, but you know what I mean? Like, I have stuff like that too. It's like when you encounter something at a formative time in your life, it ends up becoming a cornerstone of your personality. I hate it. I'm sitting here and I realized it's Homestuck. Oh, I don't like that. All right, anyway.
So which trolls are on your kin onion? I gotta know.
Anyway, but yeah, I like that. I like that character growth. But to get back to episode 20, what happened specifically in this one?
Okay, so vanished medication. Togusa can't let the Laughing Man incident go, and he gets embroiled in a deep conspiracy involving vaccines for cyberbrain sclerosis and cover-ups by the heads of state. And a DEA kill squad working with the elites of the pharmaceutical industry comes to kill a nonprofit trying to raise information on the Maury vaccine.
Hell yeah, brother.
The shit goes so fucking hard.
Yeah.
Fuck!
You watch that recent show, Common Side Effects? It's so
Yep,
good.
yep.
I was just saying, I was deathly ill yesterday. I watched Lazarus, which is about a cure-all medication while deathly ill on the couch. And then I watched Common Side Effects, which is about a cure-all medication while deadly ill on the couch.
I was like, all you needed to do was watch The Substance, and then you'd kind of have it put together.
Common Side Effects is
I
amazing,
wonder why
by the
this
way.
is in like the groundwater right now with people. Oh well.
I really like how Togusa has to make an argument to both Aramaki and the Major to get approval for this.
She's busy right now. She's in her jeans. She's got her Levi's on. She's on the roof of HQ. She is airing the titties by looking suicidal on the top of HQ, walking around up there, and he makes his case, and to signify her approval, she does like a quintuple backflip for no reason. This woman is insane, and I'm obsessed with her. I
I'm
wanna
so
study her in a
confused by
lab.
this too. Because this quadruple backflip is also at like 400 frames a second. It's like crazy.
And it still somehow kind of looks like dog shit.
Yeah.
I want to imagine this is also like what she does when you're like, hey, so is it okay if I join the polycule? I realize that you're really busy. You got a lot on your plate. And she just like does some sort of wacky ass like triple sal cow. And you're like, all right, I'm going to take that as a yes. I'll move into the spare bedroom on Monday.
Fucking Portland. God damn. First off, fashion moment. The thing that dates this series the most is the Major's Jennifer Aniston jeans from Friends. That's it. I just want to say that dates this so much.
They're a mech. I don't know what to tell you. Her fucking bootcut ass jeans are a mech.
Fashion always comes back.
Yeah.
Hacking the janitor to steal a file and deliver it to a park.
This is one of my biggest notes here. Coming back to this series now, I think I'm learning a lot more about cyberpunk as a genre. And one of the things that stood out to me in this episode that's really, really cool is the difficulty they have with this case because of the fact that the information they're looking for is on physical media and not digitized. And I think that's just really cool. But I also like the idea that there's... So you have robot that shelves library books. You have robot that does floor mopping, but you don't have cleaning lady robot. That's a real person. She's got a dust. She literally only dusts. That's all she's doing.
I hope she's unionized. I hope that's why.
I hope she's unionized too.
I love this because we see it a few times in the series where like the security guard in the British bank, like in a world that's so hyper mechanized and cyberized, people still have jobs, but it's janitor, security guard.
I mean, what we're seeing overwhelmingly with technologies that we're being told are going to completely change how the world functions is that more often than not, you need a person, especially if the job seems simple, because the people who are designing robots to do simple jobs have usually never done them. So they don't actually know how to program that effectively. You would need a janitor to supervise a janitor robot before it just did some Roomba shit and destroyed a wall.
I love shout out to another podcast. Justin McElroy on a fairly recent episode of My Brother and Me talked about how he went to go buy some beer at a gas station, and the gas station had a cashier robot instead of a person, but they also had a person whose job was just to sit there and watch the cashier robot. He was trying to buy this beer. Turns out the cashier robot can't check IDs, but the cashier is not allowed to ring people out because they're not a cashier. So the cashier just said, "Oh, I guess I can't ring you up for that. I guess it's a real shame. You better just take it." Like, shout out to that cashier.
It's funny because they told us we would all be experts in the future after the machines took the chump jobs, but now we're just experts at being chumps.
Yeah, damn. It's like the laughing man
Fucking
is
got
here.
him. Honestly, I need that. That was a quote.
That was good. No, one thing that comes up again and again is that Aoi / the Laughing Man is an expert hacker, is like an adept at hacking, which means that out of all people, he values digital information and digital products less than anyone because he knows their fallibility. And I love that comes up again and again. His curation of physical media, the ways he has to basically do like social engineering in by ghost hacking, but like he has to get at people to get at physical objects. Like there's so much that he finds he can't do with hacking that in fact, like, that stuff is some of the most important stuff. The list of the vaccine recipients, trying to get people to testify, those are things you can't just hack into being. And I think a lot of the promise of the future that we've been sold is that once everything is computers, the people who know computers best will rule the world. And it's like, in reality, a lot of these systems that we're told are going to be like omniscient and like supplant us are extremely fallible. And the people who are experts tend to know this.
You know, the higher tech you kind of make something, the larger the holes get and the more numerous, I feel like.
Which is why most tech support guys don't have smart homes. They have a gun pointed at their toaster.
Absolutely. I used to sell Internet of Things fucking shit for a living. I will never have a fucking Nest thermometer. You will not pay me to get one.
I can only turn on the lights in my house if I tell Google to do it.
Yeah.
I don't have a Switch anymore.
That's where Alice is at.
Robert Google knows when Alice's Hitachi is on. Do you guys want to talk about dumbass scumbag of all time?
We have to talk about
Mr.
the
Ima
villain.
Kurui?
Villain DEA
Oh my
agent
God.
of all time. He's constantly doing cocaine. Oh,
We gotta circle back. We're missing some stuff. So we have talked repeatedly throughout this series about cyberbrain sclerosis.
hey, this is the thesis of First Gig, is cyberbrain sclerosis happened after first cyberization and continues to plague brains. A vaccine was made that just worked, called the Moira vaccine, but we couldn't prove how it worked.
The Murine vaccine, but yeah.
They denied its FDA approval, and unfortunately RFK was not there to save Japan.
No, God, we can't do this. No, so like this vaccine was supposed to work, but it was a vaccine therapy. It wasn't like a new therapy. And as Alice said in the beginning, they call them micro machines in the show. They're pushing nanomachine technology.
Nanomachine, son.
And it wasn't doing anything yet, but they didn't want to undercut its funding and its cultural relevance and its cachet, which I'm thinking about AI. But anyway, they didn't want to undercut that by implementing something that worked and would save lives. So instead, they suppressed the vaccine that would have actually saved people and only use it for influential figures who they can't afford to lose, while everyone else in the general public either suffered without a vaccine, were given a placebo micro machine situation, and then eventually maybe got micro machines. I wasn't clear by the end of the show if there was actually a treatment for cyberbrain sclerosis other than this vaccine that was only given to certain people.
No.
It's topical treatments. Some it's kind of cancer, right? There's sometimes it works, some treatments that work, but they're throwing things at the wall.
But yeah, this is what radicalized the Laughing Man. I love this.
Togusa, yeah, it's really great. Togusa goes and meets with the Sunflower Society and notices that their logo looks a lot like the Laughing Man logo. And then shit pops off so fucking hardcore.
I wanted to ask, the kid in episode 2 who got his brain put into a tank, didn't he die from cyberbrain sclerosis?
He did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm remembering that correctly then. Sorry, just wanted to make sure of that.
I have to say it. I left this show in general feeling like the writing here was both punchy and action-filled, but very subtle. There are so many things that only when I looked back, I was like, oh, that's just been a thread. It's just been there. Like, oh, it's so good.
Right? Like, I remember we were talking about episode 13, Nico, and we were talking about the first cyberization with the weird jacks that lady had. And I think there's a payoff for it, which is like, that anti-radical movement, you know, now it's like, well, yeah, they were hiding the facts of how cyberbrain sclerosis was so prevalent. Like, they were very much like, what they were discussing was, we don't want everyone to be cyberized because they haven't figured it out, because they're hiding this.
Who would know that they were kind of right?
So like my personal stance has always been like, I am never going to get a brain chip because, again, I'm aware of how fallible both hardware and software is. Like, I don't want to get a brain chip and then have it become abandonware, and I'm having to write my own patches for my own brain, right?
Like, the only like brain chips that are really happening are from
Elon Musk, right?
The unspeakable.
But I was having this thought because I was like, there are still people who suck him off constantly, but I'm so glad that wasn't coming from like Apple or something. And I mean, I'm sure all these companies have their versions that they're working on, but I'm glad that there's now a little bit of a stigma attached to this. And I'm hoping that we'll keep attention on how many primates die in trials, because this kind of technology could be revolutionary for humanity. But the way that our relationship with technology and capitalism is now, you will never fucking catch me with one because I believe that this shit would be happening.
So yeah, everyone gets fucking murdered.
DEA Kill
It's
Squad
brutal.
shows up. Togusa is there playing a character who is a reporter who's going to help him get it out there, but he's just trying to get evidence.
Togusa this whole time has just been doing some cop shit. It's wild.
The DEA Kill Squad is like, it really shows how hyper violent this world could be. And they just bust in, gun down everyone who's working at this nonprofit, and then put guns on them to make it look like they were an armed militant group.
I'm really glad, Alice, that you gave us that information about the fact that it's like they don't have a standing army, so there's like these behind the scenes, low oversight, armed like response forces. And one of the things that they mention a little bit later is that the DEA squad specifically is made up of just people they extract based on their capacity for violence. These are former Yakuza, these are former delinquents, these are dangerous people. And they don't do any kind of rehabilitation. They decide that that violence is best suited to serving the state, and the machine incorporates them.
But yeah, Togusa shows some competence in this scene. He does get his shit fucked up, which Togusa getting shot and having to crawl down the street with no one looking at him, and then just decides then to call the major. We're living.
I don't buy this. I don't super believe in bystander effect.
Yeah.
The fact that he's surrounded by people and like nobody seems to be helping him is
that was a little wild. But
for me.
I want to say this is the first time I realized how much of a loss the Tachikoma are, because like specifically for Togusa being the least cyberized among them, the Tachikoma in Opticamo mode just following him around as insurance would have prevented all of this. But he doesn't have that anymore.
To go back to episode 14, the major almost gets the drop on the major, and she yells at the Tachikoma for not being her shield because the Tachikoma got distracted by a house robot. And that's what starts the like, well, they're not reliable tools anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, there are so many moments going forward that like they need the backup the Tachikoma supply, and like doing the reasonable thing in the eyes of the major and like removing them because they were becoming unreliable also means that like when shit starts going very bad for Section 9, it goes worse because they don't have the Tachikoma to support them.
I totally agree. The MacGuffin, just to quick like place us, the MacGuffin of this episode, the physical media that we were talking about, is a list of people who did receive the Mirai vaccine. Just to put that out there. And so what happens at the end is, as it turns out, Ima Kurui, the head of the committee, is the one who has that file because he was forced to steal it by the Laughing Man. Right? That's the kind of general thing that ends up happening here.
And a revelation we get is he's on it. A lot of influential figures are on it, but the chair of the committee that turned this down has received it. So
wait, but when he turned it down, did he get a special stamp made to do that?
We'll talk about that in a coming episode, but yes.
To nobody, I just want to be the Tachikomatic Days correspondent.
Yes.
The one on this one is really funny to me because it is extremely short. It is literally just a Tachikoma finding what it thinks is natural oil, but it's the Mirai vaccine.
I'm glad the Tachikoma's not going to get cyberbrain sclerosis. Yeah. That Tachikoma is vaxxed.
Anyway, this is episode 21 is my favorite episode in the entire series. We have to talk about it.
Hey, I can agree with that. So Left Behind Trace. So the DEA Kill Squad conducts open warfare against Section 9 to hunt down the leaks of their crimes. This is fucking holy hell.
Okay, first off, I love this opener because Bato's relationship with Togusa is one of the highlights of the series for me. If you want a distilled version of it, even though we have a lot of weird things to say about it, I think Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence is just basically that. Mm-hmm. I love how angry Bato is that Togusa's hurt. It's so good to me.
It's literally the whole squad is like, you hurt our golden retriever boy, we will kill everyone involved. Like, the major shows anger.
He asked for no pickles.
So basically what ends up happening, I want to talk about two things that are very mecha, which is number one, Section 9 at full wartime capacity, which includes extra secretary bots.
We gotta get them out.
So Aramaki goes and confronts the director of the what is it, MHLW, the Ministry of Health and Welfare,
who is behind the DEA Kill Squad for context.
We've seen him on the phone with the Kill Squad. He spits out a cover story. Aramaki literally Columbos him.
You know, there's only one thing that I'm not clear about.
I love Aramaki showed up to make one threat. It's so good. He's like, wow, you know, it's really unfortunate to hear about all this. One of my fucking guys was there. We know.
Yeah.
And then he just leaves. And I'm like, oh, Aramaki, like, I know that this kicks off a whole bunch of shit for Section 9, but I'm like, yes, King.
We all love a Gotham, though.
We must stand.
Got him.
Something I love with Section 9 is they always get their opposing force to create errors by them being like, hey, we know what you're doing, so you take the first swing, and then we'll take the second, and that's all. There's gonna be 2 hits. Me hitting you hitting the floor. So
it's really good.
Other things that happen.
Can I request, whenever you get the pictures for this episode, could you get a real clean screenshot of whatever the hell the art is on the side of the Narc Squad's fucking truck?
Oh, yeah.
Because it is...
I'll find a good cap of that.
I missed it. Do we have are you able to describe it? Do you know what it is, or?
Oh, it's a weird crayon drawing.
It looked like a clown company kind of thing. It looked like a circus truck. It's weird.
Yeah, it's really strange.
But so two things that are important, which is the Laughing Man is trying to get what's his face?
Imakurusu
to admit to his crime. So something that we find out about the Laughing Man is each of these instances, he's trying to get the person to admit to the crimes publicly, not like force a confession, but force a confession kind of thing. And so he's embroiled in all this, but also the DA squad got an armed suit from the Marines.
No, we've got to talk about the most important mech in this show, which is Ishikawa's pachinko parlor.
Yes.
Yes. I'm fucking upset.
Yes.
Okay, there's a note I made earlier that I just glossed, but it's like, it took me a really fucking long time to realize that Ishikawa is just like a classic console cowboy. Like, he is the epitome of like the Case from Neuromancer, like the jaded computer hacker, chain smoking old guy.
Kyle came to check on me because I was yelling when Ishikawa uses the processing power of the old men at the pachinko stations to make up for the information overload when they do the Batman thing, and then cause them all to win big as recompense. Hello?
I love it. It comes up again later. I'm obsessed with Ishikawa's whole situation.
Like, fuck yeah.
Is that Mechs? Is piloting old men in a pachinko parlor Mechs?
Yes.
Yes.
That's Mechs.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry to Nico. The best mech in the whole series is actually the White 303 that owns fucking Major. We have not seen the Major get owned by a tank in too long.
Yeah.
So the assault, little Feckle Man fucks up by using a public terminal, gets traced by both Section 9 and the DEA, and the race is on.
If the Laughing Man told me to stay in my room, I would simply stay.
So
this dude is so fucking stupid. It makes me crazy.
I was watching this in my home Discord server with some friends, and my friend Inumo, who works as a medical researcher, said that this whole thing with Imakurusu is apparently really reminded them of recent research scandals with Alzheimer's treatments.
Oh, I feel like I've heard just like
where it was a really
tip of that.
Yeah, like I looked up a little bit of it. It's real complicated, but it's a real similar thing of like it's a lot of like essentially keeping further research kind of under wraps just because there's certain treatments that are being pushed way harder over others. It's fucked. I hate that this series continues to be relevant, but it is.
When you couch that in diseases that are born from new technology that like humanity effectively created specifically for itself, it becomes like it's an Ouroboros of like people being fucking just this guy.
And I was really glad. One thing that Togusa name drops is AIDS. And I couldn't help but think about like how much pressure had to be put on actually releasing the drug trials that saved so many lives in the late 80s and the 90s that had been suppressed. And largely a lot of it was like the Murai vaccine, right? It was going to certain people who had power, who ended up with AIDS and who, kept it on the DL. And it was being suppressed for the masses. And like it took huge social movements to get this out. Like, this is not unprecedented that's being discussed, but I did have kind of a doomer, like, black-pilled moment where I was like, when did this show come out? And we still have these fucking problems.
Yeah, it's insane. I think, Nico, you rang the bell of the surveillance state earlier. I just want to give a brief shout out to Boma and Ishikawa doing the thing from Batman where they like literally spy on everyone in the city.
It's so good. I'm just like, yeah, nope, that's what CCTV will lead to. The facial recognition shit specifically got me.
You did notice that wasn't necessarily their Batman surveillance
Yeah.
grid. They put in a little they call in a favor from their friends at the CIA to use that surveillance grid.
They're like, those guys owe us.
Yeah, the ruling party of the government in Japan during this show uses it so much they have a hotline number plugged directly into it.
That's what that was. I didn't quite put that together last night. Oh my God. Of course they do. Of course it's the creepy Japanese CIA guys that somehow have the white guy lines. Like, ugh.
So it's a VIP extraction mission. Bato gets there first. He spawns first into the map. We get hyper competence from Bato fighting these DEA agents.
Alice, I want you to talk about the tactics here before the mech shows up. It's so good.
I might need a Bato body pillow in like a lesbian way.
So you have the two sides. So Bato, single unit, he airdrops in and breaks through the window to get into the room. At the same time, the DEA comes right to the front, and they have these sick-ass little raincoats that are also optic camo.
They have the 1995 raincoat that the guy was wearing, yep.
And they all put it on and go in. And so what Bato does is he can't extract the guy to the helicopter. He's too hard to move, right? When you're moving a VIP, you have to be cognizant that you can get your primary where you need to at any time, and that's a lack of control. I, as Bato, simply would have thrown him into the helicopter as a cyborg. He can take some broken bones. But Bato gets into what is essentially a running gunfight, so the DEA gets the drop on him, but Bato is a ranger, and his eyes, which we see in Gig 2, have a FLIR in them, which, as you know, FLIR is better than its heat signatures, right? And so he sees them, he starts shooting them. We get a wonderful moment where Bato has a competence with his rifle that they cannot match. They are wildfiring, and he is hitting targets. But who the fucking shit shows up in her goddamn drives into the lobby, smashes through it, and jumps out. And she has her own optic camo, and so the DEA pincer moves. So they come from two angles. They have pinning fire, and they are about to assault into Bato. And then she counterflanks. So she comes from a whole other direction. They didn't know there was a third party, kills 3 of them on the way in. And then I love how they clear each other, which is Bato just has his rifle and just says, Major? And she just uncloaks and is like, yeah, I made it. What's up? But so then they begin a running fight to leave, in which the Major uses the underslung grenade launcher on her rifle 17 times, which is erotic to me. They blow out people, they get out to the lobby, and then, guys, you know what was the best part of Ghost in the Shell 1995?
I know, the take over the thing in the optic camo. Fuck, I immediately was like,
go, baby.
Yo, let's fucking go.
When I think of Standalone Complex, I think about this sequence. This is
sequence is all I can ever think about. This is Mechs to me. This is so good.
It's great too because having this in conversation with GitS 1995 really does kind of underline the theses between the two series, because in 95, that tank was being controlled by an AI that had recently gained sentience and was attempting to transcend its form into a new entity of being. In this, the tank is being controlled by a corrupt government shithead with way too much money.
And a pompadour.
Also, I think if they're not the mechs from Appleseed, this is very similar to the Landmasters you see in...
Where's your steelbook?
My steelbook. So we need to talk about the arm suits. We are a mecha podcast. So the arm suits are basically giant powered armored suits that just have mecha arms.
Welcome back. Jackets from All I Need Is Kill.
However, what makes them unique is that despite their giant big arms that have giant big mecha guns, they have little arms for manipulation where the guy's actual hands go.
Perfect. No notes. The Ghost in the Shell has never missed.
They're like suits, but like with a suit that big, your arms wouldn't be able to bend in the right places for the arms to work. So you literally have to stick your arms out and have the big arms mirror your small arms.
It looks incredible. The CG it gets a little bit choppy sometimes, but mostly just it's the Major getting her arm ripped off. She gets her ass absolutely kicked by this thing.
She's like, you guys go, I'll take it. She's ineffective fire. You can't punch this thing. It's a fucking tank. There's the scene where she's running down the hallway and it chases down and turns and shoots that fucking rocket after her because it's too short. It's too tall to get through. Fuck, that's Mechs. Being chased through the doorway.
I just have a note here that just says the things on this fucking beast, which feels like Iris's note earlier. I don't know what specific part this was about, but the things on this fucking beast.
There's a note here for me that just says, bang, motherfucker, 3 exclamation points, bang, 4 exclamation points, hot girl shit, 7 exclamation points.
Okay, my note here is just the word mecha in all caps, but I made it 40 point as opposed to the rest of my notes being 12 point. So the fact that Saito shows up and starts punching it with high velocity rounds, right? The Major demands that Saito throw his gun at her. This was what Alice was referencing earlier. It is Mary McGlynn's line delivery is fucking incredible here.
Hey, Saito! Fork over that weapon now!
The Major is angry, which you never hear her.
What specifically makes me pop off about this is the high velocity rounds still aren't punching through this thing, but they are collapsing the cockpit and suffocating the pilot. It is so cool.
And she's one hand firing a high-powered sniper rifle and just working the bolt. I'm just like, fuck, I'm gay.
You can see the muscles bulge with each just racking them around.
Okay, I'm not gonna make it.
After it beats the shit out of the Major and throws her on the ground, she stops using her external processors to make herself emote because she's in like protective mode. And it's only once like the mech gets knocked back by Saito that her eyes blink and she goes back to herself. I love that note. That's so
it's
cool.
So cool.
And at the end of this, the sequence is incredible. At the end of this, the pharmaceutical guy can't help himself. He's like, one more stupid bullshit maneuver. Bato is about to put him in the fucking helicopter. And he's like, oh my God, the Laughing Man's across the street. I got to go toddle over there and say, sorry, I didn't mean to leave the room and cause a fucking incident. And he crosses the street to where the Laughing Man is standing in his coat. And they have a backup kill team. And it's just one person takes the shot out of a car and kills him. And he dies looking at the Laughing Man, who shows his face to him as he passes away.
And it is Aoi.
But he hacks Bato's eyes.
Bato's like, where'd my guy go? I gotta find him. What's he doing over there?
Only the pharmaceutical exec gets to see him as he passes away. And then, the Laughing Man hands off that list and then hacks himself out of Bato's vision. The way that he moves through the world doing this is incredible. And it pays off later. It comes back later. Bato is a learning machine, is what I will say.
The way we fade to credits as the Laughing Man is calmly walking away, invisible to Bato, while Bato furiously fires into the air is
he
like...
He point blanks it, holds his gun.
Time.
Also, never do that, guys. Just...
that could kill somebody.
But yeah, he does the I'll get you end of Die Hard shooting into the air. It's so good. Let's get into 22. The Left Behind trace. So... those 3 assassins.
First of all, do you ever shoot a man in the mech chest so hard and so terrifyingly that he turns state witness? Because that's what happened to the guy. He was like, let me out of here. I will say anything. I don't want to know how much piss was in the armed suit. Okay? I don't want to know.
I want to ask this assembled group because interrogating Major Kusanagi as a character is kind of what the Ghost in the Shell is to me. Do you think she knew he wouldn't die? Or do you think she had the full intent to kill that man?
Oh, she was trying to kill him.
I think she was trying to kill him.
Yeah.
I think it was serendipitous that he survived and then decided to divulge everything because she intended to kill him. If nothing else, I like that there's a symmetry between he's getting shot in the chest over and over and over again. Togusa was shot in kind of the upper quadrant of the chest. I think like closer to his shoulder, but too close to his heart. And I feel like that is a little bit of the residual anger that goes into her just hitting him again and again and again. Because at that point, their high value target, the person that they're trying to get out of there, was secure. So that shit was about what he did to her and what he did to Togusa. Oh, it's good.
So, Left Behind Trace. So we have the 3 DEA assassins escape after this. And they are getting up to some nefarious shit. We can kind of talk about the Aramaki thing if you want.
Villains.
But I think what we have to talk about is the body transfer scene.
Yes.
Bro. Also, this is like all Yuri.
I want to defer to Iris for this. Iris, tell me about a body transfer.
So, well, it's a very delicate procedure because when you're getting your body transferred, you're basically, as a cybernetic individual, you are at your most vulnerable and unguarded. You have to be, because
you need your GF
the
there.
only thing, you need your GF there watching. You need a licensed and trained medical professional who is definitely not a hotted boob evil woman lady
Who doesn't breast boobily into standalone complex.
yeah, who is like, for real, like Shiro like called the filmmakers, was like, hey,
please,
hey, I have not gotten one erection all season. You have to give me something. And you know what?
Respect.
They gave us something.
So I like so this is a mirror of the medical episode from the manga in which the Major swaps bodies. However, I think what Sack does really cool is interrogate the ethics around cyber bodies and personhood and how humans would interpret this. Because, like, at the end of the day, she's fully just transferring her brain over to a new brain case because her brain case was damaged. And so they have to do this in a way where there's no outside interference in the room. It's a Faraday cage, so nobody can get into it. There has to be a witness that you approve to watch it to prove you are still the same person after the swap. And it has to be a trained professional who has to dim your brain's senses so you don't feel what's happening. And just really, you're so isolated in this moment. I think it's crazy. That's it. I think this is crazy.
It goes crazy. It goes crazy. It's so good.
I think the whole setup is really fascinating too, because they make the old body face the new body in the room.
Yeah.
Like, you are watching yourself essentially get poured into this new body. And also with this scene, I don't remember what this woman's name is. I literally was just thinking of her as hot.
Oh, the breasting boobily? It's Dr. Sano.
Dr. Sano.
Titty make assassin?
That's the puppet master who cursed my vagina. We get the look of like, okay, so the brain case that the Major's brain is in, cyber brain is in, like, she fucks with the Major's ability to see colors by sticking long acupuncture needles into the ports on her brain. And that is so gross and fucked. And I want it to happen to me so bad.
There's a note I made here, which is like, this awakened a bunch of people's medical kinks.
Yeah,
The brain acupuncture would fix me.
I think it would be awesome. Well, no, it's not like the idea of like, this person is so
competent and you can't do anything.
This person is, you can't do anything, and they have this much control over not just your ability to move or respond, but your ability to even perceive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so normal.
The sound of 1 million people being changed.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm not gonna get to it. I've written like entire comics about this kind of shit. It changed the shape of my brain. Like, it was like needles getting stuck into my brain when I was watching this. So that's all I'll say on the matter. I'm so sorry.
No,
I'm
you're
so
good. You're
sorry.
good. No, this is what we needed to get into. I do want to say there's a very funny moment that happens where I first started talking about Yuri. This isn't our usual, like, oh, this is so Yuri, 2 women are here, or it's literally Yuri. The Major's girlfriend is looking at the clipboard that has the list of all the mods on the Major's new body, which is identical to her old one, to be fair. And the Major's girlfriend blushes and goes, this is a lot of illegal mods. It makes me hot thinking about what you could do with these mods. And I'm like, this is why I started calling her the Major's girlfriend. They don't say that out loud in the show, but I'm like, this girl is down bad.
This is why you put up with her like staring at like police records at 3 a.m. while you're trying to sleep is she is full of so much contraband technology, and she will figure out exciting new ways to use it with you and on you.
The full 10 hyper Hitachi fingers, like that's not legal.
Let's go. Let's go.
That's so cool.
We talk about the specter, not the specter of capitalism, the evoking the 1995 movie. She is fully disabled, and who shows up to save her and hacks the vision modules of everyone else in this building so that they can have a one-on-one conversation with the Major while the Major is disabled, which is so good.
I have so much affection for Owie / the Laughing Man as a character. In this back half, in the first half, I was like, well, that's cool. You know, I like that, you know, there's this intrigue around it. As his character comes more into focus in the second half of this season, I'm just like, I have so much affection for him, and I think it's because of something that he or the Major or both of them kind of acknowledge in this scene, which is that they are very similar people. And that's what kind of drives the Major a little bit crazy about this guy. It kind of irritates her when he does certain things like that seem kind of righteous or whatever. I think she feels like she's kind of a compromised version of this, and he maybe feels like he's a naive version of her. And like, there's so much similarity there. Like, this whole scene was so cool.
I love the Major and Section 9 as a paramilitary organization. And what the series does is like different varying degrees of justice. What does justice mean to all of these characters? And we see it later on when Section 9 gets disbarred. And for them, it's just like, well, we'll just go join another organization that will give us free parts. But for Owie, this is his entire journey as the Laughing Man is finding justice for this specific thing that happened to Owie. And it's their different ways of approaching it.
It's such a genius way to do exposition. It's like such a cool scene. And it leads up to the best kicking someone through a plate glass window in anything ever.
Can we just watch this? Somebody post the GIF. We have to watch it in loop for a couple of minutes.
It's really good. It's really good. I do want to say the second half of the plot of this episode is also important. Aramaki gets got. Basically, Aramaki is approached by a reporter in a parking garage who says, hey, your randomly missing brother that you lost during the last war. He's turned up and he's implicated in a drug scandal. So Aramaki goes autistic mode. Literally. He goes off the grid from Section 9 and starts investigating this. And as it turns out, this is a setup by the DEA agent, the same way that Dr. Sano is one of their agents and does this thing to trap the Major. They are using his brother and him going to the refugee, like, isolation zone, which looks like fucking Manhattan from Escape from New York.
It literally looks like that, and it is called the Refugee Welcome Zone.
Yeah, it's fucked in there. And yeah, they basically get him in there where he goes offline because he's trying not to expose his connection to his brother while he investigates this, and they try to kill him. And thankfully, Bato is able to extract him, but like, that's the second half of what's happening, and the Major is attacked during this delicate medical procedure.
Meanwhile, also a third thing that happens, just very small, the leader of the Ministry of Health and Welfare commits cyberbrain suicide on his way to interrogation.
Wild concept. You can't be tried because you fried your own cyberbrain. Like, holy shit.
Yeah. Alice, did you have something?
No, I want to get into what is Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex, the episode 23, The Other Side of Good and Evil.
The quick Tachikomatic Days correspondence. This is what my favorite one in the whole show. The Tachikomas are crowded around a screen. You never see what's on the screen. They're just describing it to you. They are spying on Ishikawa as he goes to bed.
Hello?
Because they missed Section 9. It's actually quite kind of sad. They're spying on Ishikawa and they're talking about how, like, look at how he brushes his teeth. Oh, look at how he goes to bed only wearing his boxers. And then they all scream in surprise because, as it turns out, the last thing Ishikawa does before he goes to sleep is he takes off his beard.
I love that. I
love it as like them being like, yeah, we never draw his beard consistently, yeah. But also, God, Section 9 is just always living at a level of we are not really ourselves. It's so good.
His hair is an elaborate network of nerves constantly processing information. He can't wear it while he's sleeping.
Also, trans icon. I just love the idea that he's like, I didn't want to bother with like T-gel on the face, so I just bought this and stick it on every day. There's some HRT for the trans men in the audience. Ishikawa's prosthetic beard.
Oh, yeah.
You too can own an entire pachinko parlor. Never give up on your dreams.
The meme you posted of the Major giving estradiol, but it's the Major giving a fake beard. Gender affirming care with Ghost
Here's
in the
this
Shell.
for you, gender affirming care.
The other side of good and evil, the Laughing Man returns to abduct Serrano, who is under police protection, and takes him back to Starchild Coffee, overlooking the scene of the abduction 6 years ago. And we get a wonderful scene where the Laughing Man talks to Serrano and basically affects a confession out of him. But it wasn't the Laughing Man, was it, guys?
No.
Yeah, no. It was the Major. I do want to say, in the beginning, there's a very cool thing that happens where the abduction happens because, again, the Laughing Man, or I guess this is probably the Major at this point, is conducting this abduction by editing everyone out of the cyber eyes and of the automated security systems. I actually have to think that this was well, I'm not sure, but Section 9 are the ones that figure out how to defeat this. But anyway, so he's not appearing to anyone who's in charge of the security on this man until they detect that there are still interceptors. These guys are still compromised that are trying to provide security, and the interceptors have picked up what was hacked in the eyes. That's so fucking cool. Sorry.
So, why'd they do the crime? Why did Serrano do the crime? He explains this pretty. He's basically just like, yeah, it was just to make money. That was pretty much it. Like, we were pieces of shit.
There's a line that I paraphrased here, which is, they're talking about like the dynamic between the suppressed Mirai vaccine and the micro machine therapy that was being pushed. And there's a line he says, which is, there's no law against patenting technology that's sure to be useful one day.
Yep.
Like, it was not useful at the time. It wasn't anything good, but that was what was making money. That's what people had patents on. So that's what they pursued. I think a lot about, like, during COVID, when there was so much vaccine development and the prices of vaccines were being debated and, like, whether or not they'd be distributed for free. Ultimately, like, all of the vaccines they're very specific COVID things that you have to pay a lot for now, but you know, there was pressure. And I think at least part of it was that historically people like Jonas Salk making the polio vaccine free, refusing to patent it, is like a public good that isn't practiced anymore.
It's really irritating, like, not to go on too much of a little ranty sidebar, but it really is irritating that, like, so many people use, like, oh, yeah, things are bad in the world right now, but hey, at least medical science is advancing, right? We've got medical science moving forward. Except that, like, it just because of the cruel math of capitalism, we can't even have that. And we can't even have medical science be a unequivocal good for the world because it has to pass through the filter of commerce first. The real sign of a decadent society is seeing a technology that absolutely can fix lives, that absolutely, when pursued without profit motive and just purely for the good of mankind, will advance mankind, and thinking, oh, we don't need that anymore. We don't need to bother with that anymore. We're too strong for that now. That is the definition categorically of decadence. One of the things that the Laughing Man has started saying as of the last episode is that he never called himself the Laughing Man. The state co-opted the visuals, the modus, the literal actions of the Laughing Man. They faked money embezzlement. They faked all this corporate espionage to create a copycat of something that never existed, which is what the Major's doing right now, which is what the Laughing Man is going to have to do in order to, like, wrap up the case. And what I love the way that this is told, right? Every single piece is deliberate. Every single thing is like references something else. It is so clean. I will never get over it.
There's a really cool scene that happens in here where they're dealing with the fact that, like, so Aoi did this. He did a very student protest thing. I think it was really good for you for us to have brought this up before, which is he was a student. He was obsessed with Holden Caulfield. This is the scene where he's talking a lot like Holden Caulfield does in the book. He has this guy held hostage for 2 days, basically locked in a Socratic seminar. Like, you can't get out. And the guy finally gets out and he gets away. And then to undermine what happened there and to basically keep Serrano from talking and to keep the status quo, the government has concocted their copycat. But there's this meeting that happens on screen that the older Serrano describes to Aoi, or in this case, it is the Major, where it's like silent. He's just narrating over it. But you see a man hand his business card to Serrano and his associate, and they look at it, and his associate goes to put it in his pocket, and the guy takes it back. And all I could think about is how freighted the business card handoff is in Japan as like a cultural symbol of like the two-handed business card handoff and where you retain business cards. And he just reaches over with one hand and just takes it back. And that kind of casual break of social mores like is representative of the corruption of the society and the systems of power that we're seeing in this show. And it's so small. But I was obsessed with them putting that moment on screen.
I think now's the time we just kind of have to overall talk about the entire Laughing Man plot, which I think is it's a really cool concept, which is one person tried to affect change in the world, and it spawned all of these copycats. Up to the point that what the Major and Section 9 end up doing is a copycat of this original. They become the end game of exposing this because they are caught in the complex of it.
Yeah.
A stand-alone complex.
I would name it Sit Together Complex.
I'm different.
So we get the twist. She pulls off the hat. This was all to get a confession on tape so that they could take everyone down following the rules of justice.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was also to check the memories that Laughing Man gave Kusanagi while she was immobilized.
And episode 24, like, we think we're in a strong position. They've extracted this information. They've got these documents.
Let me give you, this is the next part 4, complex episodes 24, 25, 26, or what I like to call the disavowing of Section 9. This is a reference to a book I've read called Rainbow Six.
You read? Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful.
Wow,
Do you even read, bro?
They made a book out of the video game? That's
so
nuts.
Section 9 is like, we got it. Obviously, we just have to present the evidence and the machinations of justice will just turn and everything will work out. And Aramaki goes to see the Prime Minister. And he shows the Prime Minister, hey, I have this document that proves the ruling party is completely corrupt, did all these illegal things, we're behind a DEA kill squad, all of this. And the Prime Minister says, there's an election about to happen. We can't do this right now. But what we can do is pass the Special Forces Bill, which will let us take over and then prosecute the ruling party. So we need to do this short-term loss to win in the long term. Politics! And so Section 9 gets disavowed. So we get the best call between Aramaki and his daughter, Major Kusanagi. And he says, you've got to assemble everybody. You've got to do this. And he says to her, you just need to survive.
Always good. I've definitely had conversations with my boss at work where she just looks at me and says, don't die. And I'm like, good. This is normal. This is good.
OSG meta moment here. The method paying off. We have an answer to a question we asked a couple episodes ago. I never thought I would say that I was glad we read Newson's Daily Life of Robot Dependent Girl, but we finally know what nursing mech is.
Oh my God, it's Tachikomas!
Other method paid off. So we started with the episode where the Tachikomas get sentience and they've been sent back to lab. We now come back. 3 of the Tachikomas survived going back to the lab. The rest were dismantled.
No.
But the 3 we
RIP.
have remaining are nursing home Tachikoma, which everyone loves and I'm obsessed with.
Yes.
It's so good. That's exactly what you were supposed to do, buddy. You could probably even put, like, if somebody had a fall, you could put them in the little
I love
little
when
backpack.
the nurses are like, that
Yeah.
Tachikoma's a real go-getter. How did we get her? Oh, it was like a government surplus sale.
I know. I need the pharmacoma.
They're talking in the foreground in front of the window into like the cafeteria where the Tachikoma is like distributing pillows and doing all these gesticulations. I miss them so much.
It's so cute. It's so cute. I would live or die.
It's like the equivalent of like picking up a dented Crown Vic at like a police car auction. It's incredible that they got this.
So what ends up happening is Section 9, the Special Forces bill passes, and Aramaki was smart. He got Togusa to get arrested and basically put on leave because he's the only one who couldn't survive the purge. But Kazuhara Miller and the Umaboshi show up, and we have to verify the situation. It could be a camouflage operation.
Okay, my heart to Togusa. This is brutal. They rough him up. They throw him on the ground basically exactly where he got shot like 3 days ago, first of all.
They slam him in a car door.
Yeah. And then Aramaki just has to walk away. It feels like leaving your dog at the pound or something. It fucked me up.
I literally just have a note. Okay, I have 2 notes back to back that are Fast and Furious Togusa Drift and then Don't Hurt Togusa. I care a lot.
So the Combine from Half-Life 2 show up with their mechs. That's a reference for only me.
All units go autistic. They don't say mode. They say all units go autistic.
Hey, everybody, this is the OSG order. All units go autistic.
All units go autistic. They are cybersecurity specialists. So we've seen Section 9 be hyper competent earlier when they fought the DEA. The only thing that can defeat them is overwhelming force, they say.
Yeah.
So I want to talk mech of it all. The arm suits on the weird penis helicopters. So good, right?
Deploys my little arm guys from my penis helicopter. But no, I love this because, like, again, like I said, I had the moment in the earlier episode where I realized the Tachikoma were such a force multiplier for Section 9 that in their absence, like, all of Section 9 sans Togusa because he has very human limitations. And again, like, I mentioned, like, the thing with the 16-year-old and the older guy. Togusa has a lot to lose in a way that, like, a lot of the operatives at Section 9 don't. So they get him out of the way to safety. But, like, even with how competent, skilled, powerful, and, like, physically enhanced the people at Section 9 are, without their force multiplier, without their own kind of... I love that they refer to the Tachikomas not as Tachikomas, but as think tanks. Like, without their think tanks, they can't match up in the same way as when somebody else actually shows up with the firepower to take them down. I was missing the Tachikomas so much.
Pretty much an episode and a half of nonstop action as Section 9 fights arm suits with cannons that they can't puncture it with and goes to ground, leaves bombs, just their underhanded tactics of going to ground, which, as you all know in Special Forces, going to ground means you disappear and you break rank. But we also finally get our conversation between Bato and the Major in this episode, where they're going through the pipe room and they're talking about the Major's watch. I cried for this watch.
There's a line that the Major says to Bato that seems to deeply unnerve him, which is she says, "I changed my body and my brain case. I can change my memories too." And he seems to be deeply disquieted by that. And that's kind of what she leaves him with as they split and go their separate ways. But, like, he's deeply disquieted by this, which sets up, I think, his next actions and ties into the watch stuff.
Yeah, he's like, this ties into the emotional conflict that we've been setting up this entire time for him to face the Major, and for her, the most competent person he's ever met, to just say that like it's no big thing feels to him to be just anathema to his entire existence.
I want to talk about the line of the humanization of the Major being like, "Oh no, I left my watch by my bedside this morning. That sucks. It really meant a lot to me." But it's like, oh yeah, she's still human. People forget to put their watches on. Even the Major makes those minor mistakes. And in her life, it means you're going to lose that one mimetic that keeps you as the Major.
And I forget if it's in this episode or the next episode where it's made clear to us the reason this watch is important is because it's something that was sized to fit her every time she changed a body. Because we know that she was fully cyberized every time. She was fully cyberized as a child.
No, she got it when she stopped having to change the size.
Yeah,
of
that's
her body.
right. That's right. And Bato makes a really, I mean, hashtag bodies gender, all of this. Bato makes a really
Hashtag bodies
comment.
gender.
What is gender?
Hashtag bodies gender. No, Bato makes a really interesting comment where he's like, you would never choose any body but this feminine body because that's the body the watch fits. Like, I thought that was so interesting with what we've talked about previously about, like, in the manga, the Major has, like, a man's body briefly, you know, when she's extracted by Bato. Like, there's stuff that doesn't happen on screen here where this is introduced as this, like, significant moment. Like, it's so good. I have a real quick note here that is Togusa should know better than to talk to the cops because he was a cop. Nobody talks, everybody walks. Do not talk to cops. OSG firm stance is do not talk to cops.
We get Bato's end of his kind of arc with all of this, which is we end the episode with him leaving one of his dead drop sites and saying, "It's my own damn life. I'll do whatever the hell I want." Which is how he's coping with losing the Major.
In the English dub, he says, "I'll waste it however I please,"
It's
which
so
is
good.
crazy.
Sorry, the Major said, Bato, you need to be a life guy. And he said, no, it's my choice. I will always be a wife guy.
Time to be what I've always wanted to be in life, a crazy lone gunman.
Okay, and quick shout out to, I think it's Paz. He goes to the underground bar that they go to a lot. And there's two really great scenes here because the Major has tasked these different teams when they split with these little data chips, and they're supposed to disseminate this information however they can. And Paz has put his in one of his cigarettes, in the butt of his cigarette. So he lights it when he first gets to the bar. We find out the bartender sold him out. The DEA scoops him up. But the bartender goes to put out his still burning cigarette and presumably feels something under the paper and pulls it out.
Correction, the DA was all killed. This is Umabozu, who is the hyper-competent paramilitary organization.
It's the other secret Japanese military organization.
The Ghost Unit. The Ghost
scenes.
Unit led by Kazuhira Miller.
And Ishikawa uses his pachinko parlor to distribute the information. And he almost gets away with it, but he walks too calmly. Ishikawa, you gotta run.
Did you get the reference to Tom Cruise with that? He's wearing the New York Mets hat. That's a Tom Cruise reference.
I was going to say, first off, I think it's great that when Paz and Bulma go their separate ways, they're just like, two dudes go like, and then they just, like,
bros.
Those two are definitely gay for each other, right?
There's something in the locker room.
They're fucking.
I feel like they're like that's galoot for galoot right there.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
G for G.
Yeah, that's hench for hench. Those guys are 21 and 24 out here. And then also, on a more serious note, I think it's like the watch conversation is interesting, but the one before that where they have the rest of the team where they talk about like, yeah, so I guess technically we're terrorists now, enemies of the state. And like they bring up an interesting point where it's like, because of how expensive their bodies are to maintain, they basically have to sell their skills to anybody who can provide the ability to maintain those. So I think it's like, it might be like Bato, who's like, shit, we might actually be terrorists next. I'll see you when I see you, I guess.
Yeah, see you when we show up in the same mercenary squad, you know?
Yeah, and the Major's like, the access to good parts and free maintenance was really worth it for this job. It's like, yeah, healthcare is good in a job, Major. I agree.
That's why, listen, in the future, if we do get robot bodies, do not fuck with anything Apple sells you. Do not fuck with anything Microsoft sells you. You find a polycule that's got some great queer people in it. Somebody has a 3D printer they're obsessed with. Somebody does Arduino shit. Somebody writes their own code and posts it on GitHub. You get that shit together, and then you go cyberbody. You do not go cyberbody before you can do your at-home right to repair shit, okay? It's important.
I gotta call Hans from Stuttgart to help update the firmware on my Linux eyeballs, but he's in a different time zone, and it's just a whole... He says it's really easy, and I can't understand, and I really see out of one eye, of course.
I've got chromatic aberrations so bad, and I keep typing sudo.
Yeah, I keep jamming needles into my brain, and it's just not doing anything at this point.
We have to talk about episode 25, which is Mechs. Bato has gone to a safe house that the Major has that they think hasn't been compromised, but unfortunately, Umibozu is very good at what they do and has tracked them. So Bato gets
Why does Bato go there, though? What is the only fucking reason he would have to go to a safe house that the Major has already said is probably compromised?
The watch. He wants to get the watch for her.
It's just great that this is what the major safe house looks like, and Bato's is like r/male living spaces.
There's a second safe house when you see that's like a penthouse, and Bato is living in a shipping container suspended by cables under an overpass.
There are two kinds of safe houses in the world.
Dudes rock.
I'm with Bato at the container, I must say.
First off, Jinder is having flashbang windows, and underneath your perfectly organized brassiere drawer, having grenades and machine guns in the bottom hidden. But so they find Bato. He starts fighting them. He luckily takes down one of the arm suits by the guy dismounting. Number one thing to do. Oh,
super important sidebar. We've seen the major sports bra.
Oh.
Do we think that lingerie was exclusively for the girlfriends?
Maybe.
Like she does. Yeah, that's beautiful. I think that's beautiful.
We also missed something really important, which is that what do we make of this old man who has a fucking cannon shell that he randomly gives to the Tachikoma?
Yo, I'm obsessed with this.
It had real Imperial Japanese army soldier who brought something home vibes that I'm obsessed with.
It's so good. One of the old guys at the elder care facility where the regular blue Tachikoma is working has been carrying around a filing box, and the Tachikoma's been interested in it, but he like keeps repeating the battle is going badly, the battle is going badly, and the Tachikoma's talking to him about what's happening at Section 9, and he's like, his eyes are unfocused, but he opens the file box, and he pulls out a motherfucking howitzer shell, and the Tachikoma's like, thank you so much, I'm gonna go to war now, bye! God.
Thanks, Grandpa. We're this original.
That man belongs in the Oji-san trading card game.
Yep.
Howitzer shell Oji-san.
Give Tachikoma's weapons. That's my... So, all this to say, Bato kills one of the pilots, throws a grenade into the arm suit because you gotta disable it. But they're mavs with each other, so there's two of them. And he starts getting the shit kicked out of him. When who would come to his aid but the three remaining Tachikomas?
The squad.
Chills all over my body.
My beautiful babies. We have Laundry Coma, aka the home nursing Tachikoma. We have repainted high altitude construction Tachikoma, which is my fucking whole shit. I want that one so bad. And then we have renegade lab escapee Tachikoma, who still is carrying a connection cable where it ripped itself out of the testing and escaped from the lab where the other ones were decommissioned.
That was my fave. The coolest.
One of the cool things is they first have a conversation, which is very funny because they haven't synced since they've been disbanded.
That's a great observation. Damn.
And I love when the escaped lab rat talks about what happens, which is like, well, the book nerd one got disassembled, but she seemed to really love it.
The book nerd one was vivisected and discovered a medical kink.
And she got to experience death. That's amazing.
So they're on some Puppet Master shit.
Of course, like, experiencing death would be like a new experience for the Tachikomas. They're excited at the prospect of dying.
Again, we've talked about it over and over. The way that this series is in conversation with the previous Ghost in the Shell installments is so beautiful.
Yeah. This fight fucking rules. Our beloved Tachikomas, RIP, they all die, but...
The fucking pin down with the ropes and the Tachikoma with the shell... Like, one dies trying to pin this down, the other ropes it down.
The way that they die broke my fucking heart. Just watching them be lovingly drawn, being destroyed by, oh my god, it hurt me so bad.
The way that they react like they're feeling pain is like, it's brutal.
They put the juice into them blowing apart, yeah.
This is where we get, so they think they're gonna lose. The blue Tachikoma can't get the shot if he thinks he's gonna lose.
The shell's a dud.
The shell's a dud,
makes sense. Why would you let an old man walk around with a howitzer?
The propellant is a dud, is what we know.
The Tachikoma says, I can't do anything, I'm powerless, and the Major taps into its comms and says, what you and the others have gained makes you far from powerless.
And they think she's the voice of God.
Bruh.
And so what do the Tachikomas do? They say, we can still do this by grabbing it and triggering the explosive shell by ramming into it at its speed to percuss it, and we all die. I cried. And what I love about the Tachikomas the most in this series is they are in one of those slice of life animes this whole time, and they don't realize how horrible everything is. They are just like,
they're in Nichijou.
Nichijou.
I do want to have a shout out. Obviously, Bato went back only to get the fucking Major's watch and ended up in this whole fight. But the way that Bato gets rid of the first tank guy is he eye hacks him. He gets cornered in an explosion and the guy dismounts because it looks like Bato's body, the head is just falling off. So he gets out of his tank and it's because Bato eye hacked him just like he got eye hacked from the Laughing Man. I was obsessed. I was like, oh.
Well, and I think it's funny.
He may be the only
because
man.
He popped out of his hard suit, which is why he's no longer in autistic mode and can get hacked. I think that's such a subtle little thing that they do with it. Any other thoughts on the death of the Tachikomas? Because this is really the mech of it all. Anybody?
No.
I don't have a thought on the death of Tachikomas. I do want to talk about the conversation they have at the penthouse after this.
The Major shows up in teen boy body and says, hey, this is all fucked up. We got to get out of here, Bato. And takes him to her other safe house, which looks at Section 9.
Gotta keep an eye on the motherfuckers.
So I want to talk about, is this the same line? So she comes out in her other body, and she says to Bato, which is gender to me, this body's always suited me. No other will do. And she says it with such just a euphoria of self that I'm like, yeah, the Major's a person. She sees herself as that.
This body's always suited me. No other will do.
Mary McGlynn, love her so much.
Especially like because she escapes in a child body to mirror the 1995 body, but the fact that she escapes in a specifically masculine coded child boy body and then gets into the adult female body and is like, no, this is the only body I will accept as mine.
They have this intimate moment. Bato's bandaged to shit. They have this intimate moment, missing an arm. When your body is replaceable and you don't need to leave any marks on it to like represent who you are, you have to rely on these external mimetics, Bato's cars, Bato's guns, Bato's dogs.
His workout that he doesn't need. It's to reassure yourself that you have a ghost. Did you get the quote? Because I wrote the quote down. Bato drops a line. There's a lot of people who say quotes in the second half, and they tend to be attributable. And I like that the Major does ask him where he got this, and it's off the dome. But Bato says about the watch and about the Major and these mimetics, in this time that's far too fleeting, people entrust memories to external devices because they want to set down proof that can identify them as a unique individual.
Lips are not real. Lipstick is real.
So good. I was obsessed with this whole thing.
So like they definitely banged it out after that,
Is it
right?
weird that
in
I
that
saw
penthouse.
no sexual tension at all in this scene? Like, this was the most...
Well, they turn around and their figures are very small, but Bato's arm goes around her waist. And then when they're boarding the plane, he's holding her the same way.
Oh, the Casablanca scene?
I think if I were her, I would have been like, okay, we're
fucking.
This is when the activity is happening now.
Yeah.
Oh, there's no more Section 9. There's not a power imbalance. They're not boss and coworker
Yeah,
I
anymore.
like
No.
that that's the only thing keeping L of Section 9 from just fucking all the time is the power dynamic of them being in a structure.
The only thing that keeps Ishikawa off Togusa is...
Remind me if it's this episode or the next episode where the Major talks about the Tachikomas and postulates that they had gained a ghost.
It's the next episode because that's how she... So in this episode, she gets blown up. But do you guys know what she mouths to him before she quote unquote dies? I never figured it out.
Go Packers.
Hack the planet?
Bato sees the thing on the back of her head and he's yelling Motoko, 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 and she turns around and she mouths something before her head gets blown off, and I don't know what she mouths.
Yeah, I don't know what it was, but...
Okay, part of me has to wonder, like, legit answer. Part of me has to wonder if, like, because of, I mean, not to spoil things, she gets out because she escapes into the net, which is vast and infinite, of course. But, like, part of me wonders if that's, like, a residual, like, leftover reflex from her ghost leaving that shell. And if it's just, like, it's kind of mirroring that android with the mouth moving at the military training exercise in the earlier episode.
Well, she hadn't been shot yet, is my only hesitation on that.
Amazing research from 2018 from Sith Jedi on the Ghost in the Shell fandom.
Thank you, Sith Jedi.
Oh.
She said, Na'ani, translation, what? There was a program where they were talking about this episode, and regarding the scene, the original storyboard revealed that she was supposed to say Na'ani with cold expression. Major Kusanagi didn't convey anything to Bato, even in this situation. The co-producer of it says that she's a very sadistic girl. However, before this was revealed, Japanese fans theorizes that she was saying Tokei, or wristwatch, because she tried to tell Bato that she wasn't wearing her watch, which we all noticed.
Yeah, because she's not.
Because she's in a remote-controlled body. So, thank you, people from the internet. 8 years ago.
Her escape into the net was very carefully planned. I think that's why she's there cohesively, because she isn't wearing the wristwatch. I assume that that's on Bato somewhere.
All right. Tachikomatic Days segment, real quick. This Tachikomatic Days is a Sentai theme song intro for the triple Tachikoma squad that rescues Bato.
Yes!
It is so cute.
This is the one that matters the most. This is such a good one.
Can we use that instead of the... Let's use that instead of Area Glories, please.
They were like, yeah, we need to make this we need to have some sort of thing after watching the Major get fucking murked. So please enjoy AI Sentai Tachikoman Squad.
Yes.
So we've got to wrap all this up. And how do we wrap this up? Thank you so much for asking. John Lennon's assassin read The Catcher in the Rye and it inspired him to kill John Lennon with a shot to the head. You'll never guess what Togusa does after 3 months of being on work leave.
Grabs that revolver, grabs that annotated copy of The Catcher in the Rye, puts him in the hoodie pocket, and I'm ready to hit the town.
I'm going to become what I've always wanted to be, a lone crazed gunman.
It's kind of fucked up that... So first off, it's his first time going through this, which apparently Section 9 has to go to ground so often that they are all joking about what has happened. And he gets picked up by Bato as he's about to kill Serrano.
He's not even close, and he was going to kill the the secretary or whatever. But it's so funny because Bato points out he wasn't even close. He's outside the building. The press are still swarming. He's nowhere close to the guy, and he pulls the revolver and just starts like walking towards the crowd.
I want to say, in contrast to the previous episode, we talked about this. We haven't really talked a whole lot about Yoko Kanno's score in this back half, but I want to say there's a specific like Boards of Canada style tense atmospheric beat that's playing when Togusa is like standing up on the building just like with too many thoughts that I think is like really it pulls the whole mood together in a way that I feel like the episode would be less without it. It's really cool.
And we'll circle back to the theory behind why Togusa got here in some sort of standalone complex situation, but first, we have to have them pulling Togusa in and being like, hey, we're all alive and we're joking around. And we took bets on if you were going to try and kill that guy.
My note, of course, was, bro, is Togusa about to Shinzo Abe this guy?
The other thing I love is when they're talking about it, he's worried about the Major. Togusa's like, where's the Major? I don't see her. And everybody is like, oh, she's fine. Bato was over there screaming, Motoko!
No, Bato says, I don't give a damn about that bitch. And then everyone's like, okay, Motoko. Motoko screamer.
Ishikawa's animation, he does this little gay hand flip over the keyboard where he's like, do you want me to bring up the footage of you crying your fucking eyes?
The satellite imagery that I pulled to dunk on you.
This is a friend group.
It's the worst job ever, I swear to God.
I fucking hate my workplace. They keep saying, go cop boy, go cop boy, go.
So it's all wrapped up beautifully. Investigation happens. We're going to get justice. Eventually, justice moves very slowly, etc., etc. But Aramaki and the Major are going to go and try, because they're rebuilding Section 9, and they're going to try and recruit a new member. So they go to the coolest fucking library ever. And who do they find?
Well, first of all, the Major finds a cool new red hat, which people who ill-advisedly also read The Catcher in the Rye before embarking on the second half of the season will know. An iconic red hat is a fun part of that. So she gets her hat, she puts it on backwards.
And it's obviously that Aoi left it for the Major. It's very much the conversation between them throughout the series is coming to its conclusion. And so they meet. They have a discussion about, how Aoi's grown up, and they kind of just, basically gets a job offer. Hey, you want to use your hacking skills to hack the planet for Section 9? And Aoi says, no, I just want to maintain this library of knowledge. That's it. That's all I want to do. I did what I wanted.
Can I do a little bit on Aoi and physical media? Because I'm obsessed with him. I really love the way that the Laughing Man is fixated on, paper books and literature. it allows for some of that like innocence level, like quoting indulgence, like wanting to bring in the thoughts and the ideas of other thinkers, but in a way that makes sense because Aoi is the guy who like was a student, cares about this stuff. And I love that we get the echo that the major has all this same knowledge because he will say a quote and she will give the attribution. I love that echo from that scene where he saved her in that operating room of we are actually very similar, and that's kind of why we kind of irritate each other, is they're having this back and forth. But one of the quotes that Aoi pulls out is, "I am the machine that shows you the world as I alone see it." If we want to talk about the thesis, these bodies are mechs. The way that we navigate the world and the technology we use for it is a part of that idea and that theory that mech shows explore to greater and lesser extents. Like, it's all right there. And I love that, you know, Aoi as a character allows them to indulge in this kind of succinct quotes and these kind of summed up cool ideas without it being, like you said, it replacing dialogue. It like is part of the dialogue. And the other thing I love is again, like I brought up earlier, Aoi is like committed to managing physical information because he knows better than anyone that the digital is fragile. And that dovetails so beautifully with the Major's watch and Bato's understanding of externalizing memory into physical things so that it persists. Because like in Ghost in the Shell, the net is a fragile data network that could be destroyed or have things happen to it, or you could lose pieces. So's the human mind. Like, we still don't know how thinking works within the brain and, like, how all of this works here.
I also love the reveal in this last episode that the entire Laughing Man incident and everything that spawned from it is just because Aoi was curious and he grabbed an email off the net that had a blackmail package in it and found this information out and wanted to do something with it. And I think of all of the whistleblowers who brought forward these horrible things that they find and how society and the state persecutes them. And I really like that, you know, he lost his childhood to this. He lost his childhood to the net and cyberbrain sclerosis and all of this. And this is his retirement now, his books. It's very nice. I like this ending for Aoi.
But yeah, then we get our squad up, everybody reporting on the scene. It's so good.
First off, ACAB, but for a minute there, Section 9 was terrorists and cool, and then they decide to be ACAB again. So that kind of sucks.
The healthcare, you know.
But now they're like Black Ops Not Real, which is super cool and off the books. But then Major calls everybody up, gives them their last line, and then we get our one last Major jumping off a roof. It's just such a nice bow. This series has such a nice bow at the end.
It's good. And she still got her jeans on.
Official Levi's correspondent Nico.
There we go. Sorry.
The reversal.
Oh my god, I forgot about
the
it.
sad fact that actually in episode 26 we don't get that song. It's actually just Inner Universe that plays at the end.
Glorious again?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Which is fine. So
Damn.
that was Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex Season 1. It was a really fun time, a really fun journey with the Laughing Man, and we've created a standalone complex within this community. But there is one thing that we have to do. We've got to rate these goddamn mechs. There's a lot going on here, right? So you have your Tachikomas. They're obviously going to be our standout. But we also have shells, the shells that cyborgs use. We have cyberbrains swap between bodies, data transfer, net transfer, multiple ghosts in one single shell, and all of the wild things that a ghost as a concept can be in this universe. We also have the multiped tanks, the think tanks, and the armed suits from the Marines. There's a lot of mecha to talk here, especially the Major's Watch, but I want to do this one a little differently because the three of us, Iris, Brian, and me, are perverts about this. So I don't want us to give our scores first because I want this to be raw. Nico, how do you rate these goddamn mechs? And give me your full thesis.
Well, as we all know, this show very quickly hit the Nico factor of I opened a link and started Googling how to acquire kits. So I cannot award under a 6 if I'm trying to buy it. That's kind of my decision on that. This show is interesting, right? We talked about in the first episode that this show combines hand-drawn stuff and drawn over, or at least like styled to be congruent with the art style of the show, CGI, for some of the vehicle and mechanical design. And I think where that was most effective was the Tachikoma. I feel like so much of what they do is lovingly rendered, whether it is rendered in 3D or if it's hand-drawn. Even when they destroyed even when they slaughtered my fucking boy, it looked beautiful. Like, it was just, there was a lot of love put into that. But even also when they were CG and moving around, and like so much of the sequence where the Tachikoma at the nursing home is like doing little things, it's clearly like CG, but they put so much attention into how it moves, the bounciness of the shocks, the way its legs work together. There's so much affection in that. I think where it's at its least effective is with the armed suits. The armed suits are a struggle for me because in like the manga, we see the Marine Explorer, like Multiped Tank that she has to fight. And it's chunky. It's got that classic Ghost in the Shell kind of almost like blobject design to a lot of that kind of stuff. These look like knights. And I would be more interested if they had maybe reflected more of the aesthetic sensibilities of like the Marines. Like, if that had been a statement about the fact that, like, Section 9's Tachikomas are, like, friendly and approachable kind of looking, even though they're tanks, and, like, the Marines have these, like, roided up He-Man super soldier kind of look. But they weren't aesthetically remarkable enough for me to forgive the fact that the CGI on them frequently did not look as good as the CGI or the hand-drawn stuff we've seen at any other part of this. So that was tough for me. But more than... I think sometimes with the Year in the Shell, we've been reaching, right, to make our mech argument about, like, why we need to cover this. And I think we had to do some of the same stuff with Metal Gear Solid, because that's a series that has mechs in it, but a lot of the time it's about guys with no shirts on sort of, like, having parental issues. Like, that's kind of more of what's happening in Metal Gear Solid more often than, like, Sahelanthropus is, right? But, like... This is the series, and y'all had told me this was going to happen, so I'm not shocked, but like this is the series that really presents the thesis about the disposability of bodies, how we maintain bodies, what body presentation is in a world where your ghost is you. And if you are piloting anything, if you are remote piloting, if you are moving between your body, if you can be trapped in your body, then you are piloting your body. And like... This show, like I said, the writing is punchy and action-filled, and it is also incredibly subtle and beautiful. The moment when we're in the library with Aoi, and the Major, like, makes a wrist motion, and it's specifically there, it's not, like, in your face, they don't just, like, hold her wrist to the screen for 20 seconds so you see it, but, like, she kind of flicks her wrist, and just under her glove you can see her watch. Just to confirm the people who were like, when she got shot, she didn't have her watch. We understand the signifiers of when she is and isn't piloting a body. It's gotta be a 10. It's gotta be a 10. I can't think this hard about something and not just go 10. And also, I love every Tachikoma on Earth, and I wish I could have saved one of them from the lab, and I would have painted it like John Deere green, or maybe like a beautiful red, and it could have towed like a little like seed drill for my field, and I would have loved it and cared for it my whole life.
OSG stance, fuck John Deere. Brian, how do you rate Ghost in the Shell standalone complex first gig?
Yeah, so like when we watched the 1999 film, one of the things I said was like, my true feelings about Ghost in the Shell as mecha is going to come through standalone complex. And I think that the eye hacking thing is like my central thesis for how mecha being something that idealizes your physical form and mediates how you interact with the world can be troubled by outside forces and things like that. Basically everything about the vulnerability at the core of your being in this show is mecha to me. But I also really like the armored units. I love the 4 arms. I think that, like I mentioned earlier, the CG can be a little bit choppy sometimes. I've been very desensitized thanks to some of the other things we've seen on the show. So it really it has almost completely stopped bothering me, I will say.
Yeah, you just need Price of Smiles exposure therapy.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to say too is like the Tachikomas are bugs. Do you know how much I hate bugs? Do you know how cool you have to make this to make me like it, even though it's a bug? This is a 10. Sorry.
Yep.
So, Iris, I want you to tell us, how do you rate the Mechs and Ghost in the Shell 1 out of 10? And give me your whole thesis on this. You have the floor as long as you need.
First off, I want to just say for the record, I felt bad listening to you two because I'm like, if I say 10, I'm going to look like a scrub because, and I was like, maybe I'll say like 4 or something and make up some bullshit. But like, let's be real. What is a mech? What defines the concept of a mech? Because that's what this whole exercise is about. I think that a crucial component of mechness is like probably the most important thing is you can have things that are giant robots that I would argue personally are not mechs. What makes it a mech is some aspect of the pilot has to be expressed somehow with the mech, whether that's in its performance or in its appearance or in the interaction between that pilot and the mech itself is sort of like a personality overlap or something. There needs to be an aspect of artistry to it, of humanity to it. And I think that really comes into, I think that GitS has a really interesting position in demonstrating different reflexive ways that can be the case. With the Major and with the other cyborgs, it is all about them trying to assert their humanness and the idea that there is a ghost inside of their driving, no matter how cyberized they get. With the Tachikomas, it's about them learning to develop a way that when they start out, I would argue they are not mechs. They're just, they're tools, they're machines. But as they grow and change and learn and come more into themselves, they start expressing more of themselves. So they become mechs by the end of the show. Conversely, the armed suits of the DEA guys are not mechs because they're meant to be interchangeable. They're meant to be, they don't have any signifying features to them, and the guys inside mostly use them as essentially guns, but more so. I think this show not only demonstrates some sick-ass mechs, it is a benchmark for what we can define the concept of a mech as. I think it has to be a 10 purely because it is a college course in mechs in a show.
I like that approach. I think we've tended towards the utilitarian in the past in terms of our definitions of mechs, and I like that kind of approach of like the theory of mind for mech too. All right, Alice, you gonna give this like a 3?
Yeah,
or?
No, we don't have
I'm
to.
sorry.
No bated breath. It's a 10 out of 10. This gets a Hayuki Shiziki.
She can't keep getting away with it.
Yeah,
Hayuki
it's
Shiziki.
Hayuki, which I think is a car.
I knew coming into this that this was going to be a 10 out of 10 for very obvious gender reasons about how I feel about Major Kusanagi. I've always said I would be the first person in line to get full brain cyberization, damn the consequences, because this is so exciting to me. Looking at our other 10s that we've given out so far, we have Iron Widow, Heaven Will Be Mine, Gunhead, and Titanfall 2. And I think what we're seeing come out of what this whole On the Shoulders of Giants project is that one of the most important things about being mecha is the sense of co-piloting that you have. So at all points that the Major interacts with the world in this and every bit of her net self, she is interpreting a medium using these tools, and she is... if she was just data, she would still be the Major, but how she interprets the world around her and still stays in the physical space is mecha to me. But it's also the Tachikomas. I think we can't leave this without saying that without the Tachikomas, this is just a good sci-fi. Even with the arm suits, even with everything else, even with episode 2, the Tachikomas give this life. Because when I think of a mech, when I think of piloting a mech, I think of the connection you have with not that machine, but that ghost. And so the interplay of the ghost between this, it has to be a 10 out of 10. I think Ghost in the Shell standalone complex is going to be something that we point back to in our future discussions as what it means to have personhood in a mech, especially as we start to see more mechs that show personalities but haven't reached personhood, don't have a ghost yet. I think Ghost is going to be in the lexicon of mecha forever because of Ghost in the Shell, and SAC is the full theory and thesis of what Ghost in the Shell is. This is the peak of what we will do in the Year in the Shell, and we can't exit this one without giving it a 10 out of 10. So, welcome to the club. 10 out of 10 Ghost in the Shell. We did it, guys.
Kakushiki time. Let's figure out where to mail that.
So we are going to head to the break. We're going to play a very quick game because look at the runtime on this episode and you'll know why it's a very quick game. And then we will re-letter and get out of here. So let's head to the break. Hey guys, Alice here. Thanks for listening to On the Shoulders of Giants. We're really happy you're here, but if you know anybody who might be interested, we'd love if you share our work with them. If you are enjoying what we're doing, maybe send us a message, or what would really help us out is if you leave a review online. Really, a lot of the algorithms will push people down if they don't have reviews, so it really helps if you just go and write something on the internet. Heck, we might even read one on the podcast if it's really nice and makes our hearts go doki doki. So if you could do that, maybe do it, and thanks again for listening. Now, back to the show. Welcome back from the break. Hey guys, feel like playing a game?
Okay, Jigsaw.
Would you like to play a game? We've dived into Zero City, and we have unfortunately stumbled upon a tier maker list. And so we, as OSG, are going to, and with Iris, with you're a voting member of OSG, we are going to fuck, marry, kill.
Hey, surprise, it's me, Brian. I had to come on in the edit and tell you guys that we had some weird issues with this episode's audio, which resulted in the loss of the first part of this game. So I'm just going to drop you into that conversation. The images for those tier lists will be available on the website and on Blue Sky, so you can kind of at least glean what we had talked about for the first couple minutes of the game here. While I'm here, twitch.tv/OSG_pod and code-fi.com/OSGpod. Those are two websites you can go to now. They've actually been around for a little while, but we've been really bad about advertising them. So I'm going to force them into this episode while I'm already having to do a little addendum. Have fun. This is a game. Goodbye.
All right. That brings us to the next on our list. Bato. Fuck, marry, kill,
Mary,
or touch.
Mary.
I would argue fuck.
I would say fuck.
Here's why.
We're evenly split.
Here's why. I think Bato is kind of toxic. Also, you could marry him. All he would think about is the one who got away, and it's the major.
Oh, that's
you're
fair.
right. You know what? I agree.
I think that marrying him would make him a lot more, like, entangling with him romantically would be a lot more of a hassle than just being like, do you want to, like, bang it out and also look at pictures of cool mechs and guns?
That's super fair, actually.
That's
yeah,
true.
let's do fuck.
I will go with fuck, but I will say I realized that I yelled Mary, Mary, Mary because I was thinking of myself as Bato, which is a butch moment of all time. I'm like, man, I would love a strange, hostile woman that I could devote myself to. Wait, I'm lesbian projecting onto Bato. Hold on.
All right. It's all of Section 9. So what about Boma? Boma's the other one with Ranger eyes.
Boma is a Tachikoma to me.
I'm putting Boma in another category that I've created, where I've also put pause, and they're in a committed relationship to each other.
Okay.
Is a Tachikoma to me.
Whatever I do with them, I'm never overshadowing their love for each other.
So here's the thing. Here's my strategy on this. Actually, hold on. I'm thinking. Nope. I think fuck. I would fuck Boma.
I was gonna say kill because I gotta put people in there. So my vote's out.
We're all split on this.
Do we want to circle back to Boma?
Iris invented a new category. Let's circle back to Boma. What do we got after Boma?
We have the H302, the mech from episode 2.
Tachikoma.
This thing is a Tachikoma. I need to go on like a date with this thing before I can really decide how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Really?
That's a Tachikoma to me.
All
I'll
right.
agree with that.
Next one, the Jameson robot.
Oh, that's a fuck.
Yeah, fuck.
We all want to fuck that thing.
Sex box.
I just want to see how. I want to see that sex box is 360.
Let's get the turnaround around on the sex bot.
Gotta leave. Okay.
That blew me away.
It turned 360 degrees and walked straight into my heart.
All right, we've got to do.
Iris is blowing me into orbit right now. I cannot believe she's just saying shit. Okay.
It's so good.
All right.
I'm so sorry.
The major.
Mary.
Fuck.
I'm going to say kill.
Oh,
That's
okay, let's go
powerful.
around. What's everybody's argument?
My argument is that I did it on reflex, and now I'm thinking about it, and I think I would rather put her in fuck now that I'm actually grounded and thinking about logic, because I don't think she'd be a very good partner. She's on screen not a very good partner. So, but she's a good lay. Also on screen. So
Now,
that's
Iris,
why I say fuck.
Why kill? I want to hear that pitch.
So I have
need
my
you to keep
reasons.
that whole positive,
I
by the
think
way.
that and let me say, this is not because I wish to see her dead. It's because I know I would lose. But I want, even for just a fleeting moment, before the light dies from my eyes, I want to know that I had her full and undivided attention.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, that's beautiful. Okay, hold on. I'm back. I'm back in kill.
I'm back onto Mary because I'll always be on Mary because I can fix her. I can.
I think Iris is so right, because the most Yuri moment to
Toxic
me,
Yuri?
the most toxic Yuri moment to me is the insertion moment of the brain acupuncture needle, and that bitch was trying to kill her.
Yeah, let's put her in
That's
kill, but
intimacy.
erotic.
I think with the major, we never see her really have sex, but we see her being kind of disconnected from her harem after sex, or possibly before, or maybe instead of. It seems like she is the most engaged and the most
Engogged,
in conversation with her body when she is
at the brink of death.
When her life is on the yes.
Also, to add to the pile for this, the whole thing with the sniper rifle, where she almost got obliterated and then
She would never actually die. You would kill her and she would still be on the net. So
yeah, no, yeah, and that too. Like even if one of us ends up offing each other, it's fine. We can figure out a workaround. It's okay. We can negotiate the kink scene beforehand. We can delineate boundaries. That's perfectly healthy. We're both two consenting adults. But when it's on, it's gonna be on. It's gonna be like fucking Inspector Clouseau, and like you can get attacked at any time by your butler and whatever. That's sex. Let's go.
It's gonna be like Inspector Clouseau. You can be attacked at any time. Whatever. That's sex. Thank you so much for joining us for these podcasts.
back to it. We have the Marine arm suit. Fuck, marry, kill, Tachikoma.
Kill. I like its stupid little arms, but kill
I
it.
watched the Major kill that, and it was the most erotic thing I've ever seen. So
yeah, I'm gonna say Tachikoma because I don't consider it a mech. I think it's just it doesn't have any self-expression. It's merely a shell, but not a cool kind of shell. Like just
I think Tachikomas have a soul, so we can't put it in Tachikoma.
I'll agree with that.
Oh, that's true. All right, let's put it in kill.
That's a weird matchup in kill.
Let's
but
just figure out where the couple is going. Where are Paz and Boma going? Because they have to go together.
They're going to marry. I'm joining their polycule. I'm marrying both of them.
I posted a poem that I think
that's
is
a good
very
point.
important for understanding this decision, which is called "After the Threesome, They Both Take You Home" by Soo Hyun Bae. I think everyone should read it.
Good.
And this is what's happening with Paz and Borma.
You're making a very convincing argument here.
This is what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. That's you've won me over
Okay,
here.
I need you to make an anime AMV of you reading that poem with like piano music, and it's just different shots of Boma and Paz gently looking in a direction, but you cut it so it looks like they're looking at each other longingly.
Where's the guy who made the Stacy's dad edit of like Aladdin? I need your skills.
I'm gonna set the scene. This is why Ishikawa is married. Okay. You're going to bed.
Agreed already.
You're going to bed with Ishikawa. You get a good night's sleep. You have your beautiful dreams. You wake up in the morning. You say, "I feel mischievous." You're gonna steal that beard. You're gonna steal that beard, and he's gonna be naked all day.
He's gonna call into work at Section 9. "No, boss, I'm so sick," while glaring at you, and you're like, "What? I don't know where it went."
I got no argument against that.
I already had him under Mary. I just think that's the kind of man. He has a business. Like, that's the kind of man you can depend on.
Yeah, I put him under Tachikoma because not because like I view him as a machine, but because I view him as somebody who I don't know if he'd be interested in me if I'd be interested in him, but I do consider him a peer, and I do want to give him treats and tell him that he's doing a great job.
Yeah, give him cigarettes and like time with the pachinko.
Yeah, boy treats, parentheses, cigarettes.
We learned this during the Metal Year.
Saito, he can find the G spot. I'm just gonna put him up and fuck.
Yeah, no, that's the sniper.
I'm gonna say kill. See my notes for the major.
Okay.
Also,
fair.
I don't know if you noticed, but when they're like, yeah, we got to go to ground. Sato is wearing what's possibly one of the sluttiest outfits I've ever seen on a dude.
He's wearing the lesbian low V and pendant.
Exactly. Saito is tits out. I'm obsessed with him. He is absolutely a fuck for me. I would fuck Saito in a heartbeat.
He's very I am in like a quantum superposition of kill and fuck for both the major and Sato. Again, I would not win. And also, I might not even see where Sato is when we're having sex, but it will be sex. And yeah, as they say in Heaven Will Be Mine, that is the 500-kilometer kiss right there.
Yes. I want, the famous and extremely realistic scene in High School of the Dead where he uses one girl's tits as a sniper stock and the other girl's tits as the thing the bullet goes through. I want to be both of the women in that for Saito.
Yeah, me too.
Okay.
Where's that like meme image of Socrates in the forum? That's us discussing this.
Fucking Psycho. Okay, next up is Tachikoma. Fuck, marry, killer, Tachikoma.
Mary.
I'm putting them in Tachikoma, but I feel you.
I think, no, actually. Yeah, I'd say, oh God. I was originally going to say fuck, but then I was like, hold up.
Yeah.
Think about the Tachikomas. Now, they are very eager, and they are excited learners, but what that also means is they are very inexperienced.
Yes.
So,
you need a long-term relationship.
Little bit, that's just, maybe for some people, that's just not, it's just not for me. I would say maybe either Mary or Tachikoma, because, Mary implies, I will never let you down. And Tachikoma implies, I will give you all of the organic oil and turn you into a pudgy little beast like Nico keeps talking about.
So
with the Fuchikoma.
The reason I didn't just do fuck, marry, kill is because of the Tachikomas. And here's my argument. Number one, infantilization of the Tachikomas makes me give the ick for all three of the other ones.
Girl, you watch VTubers.
Yeah, and I want to Tachikoma them.
You're gonna come into my house with the robots.
Alice repeatedly calling high school characters her wife.
Here's my thought.
But when it uses Boku, that's too far.
Just gives me the vibes of, I just remember the scene where the Tachikoma is like, this isn't the dog we're looking for, and he eats it. Or the scene where the Tachikoma is like, somebody threw out an old person. And I just could see the Tachikoma doing that to me if I was fucking it, marrying it, or killing it. So
that's just some shit my partner says to me at the farmer's market.
Tachikoma, so Iris defined Tachikoma to me as, I'm going to give you all the synthetic oil and make you a pudgy little beast. And that is exactly how I feel about Tachikoma, so that's why I put it in Tachikoma.
Okay, so we are doing our side ones. Okay.
And for the same reason, I also put Togusa in Tachikoma.
Okay. All right, last one. Togusa. Fuck, marry, kill, or Tachikoma.
He is in a committed, monogamous relationship.
Yeah,
we cannot marry him.
Tachikoma to me.
So I put him in fuck.
Okay, fair.
That's fair.
I put him in kill because he's a bad dad and bad husband.
You don't get to make that choice.
I can make him a worse husband.
All right, he's our little Tachikoma. All right, do we all feel like this is enough of a compromise for the OSG? End of SAC 1. We'll revisit this at SAC 2.
I'm excited to see if any of these change.
All right, take a screenshot. I am posting my version because I added a special category called "He's Just Like Me for Real," which is just Bato and Togusa.
Bato's just like you. I've seen you do combat maneuvers.
Oh, Irish, yours is so clean and beautiful.
Yay, 4x3.
For listeners, all of our individual tiers will be on the website. You'll notice that I somehow copied the major and put her into every category 16 times on mine. I have complicated relationships.
I will say the only reason I put Paz under kill is because I needed to, and he smokes, and I don't like the smell. So
That's real.
Fair.
that's it.
All right.
Otherwise, he's a good
There's
guy.
no scores, no points in this. This was just a fun one. But
We all won.
Yay.
1 second, I'm Chief Aramaki tapping my head because I'm getting a net connection call. Looks like we're getting a transmission. Brian, would you like to read this? Because I'm in autistic mode.
Dear arbiters of all things mecha, thank you. That is what we are. I'm newly fascinated with mecha as a genre, or quote, thing to put into an otherwise unrelated media, unquote. I discovered you through the devs of Stories from Seoul and have thoroughly enjoyed your readings and appreciation of various mechs. However, I come to you with a deeply serious question. Is Redline Mechs? I'm, of course, referring to that fantastic and ridiculous film about racing that is also in a maximalist sci-fi setting. Now, there is at least one car that becomes a mech in the movie. But in this world of heightened technology where every car has a rocket attached to it, may or may not come with weapons platforms, and can, in one case, be essentially one racer's entire body, is this not Mechs? Sincerely or insincerely, however you wish to take it, Octavia.
Thank you, Octavia.
I've decided to take this insincerely, like you were saying the whole thing. Like, however, I come to you with you were doing that the whole time. Kind of rude of you. I can't believe you did that.
First of all, just to give the background, a Redline is you remember how in the Macross Plus episode we talked about how many frames were involved? Redline currently holds the record for most hand-drawn frames in any film ever produced.
Okay, I'm looking this up because I've never seen what this is.
It's
movie.
It's insane.
2007.
Do yourself a favor. Yeah, it's by let me just get the director here real quick. Accessing data. Yeah, produced by Madhouse, directed by Takeshi Koike in his directorial debut, though some of the characters previously appeared in a shorter 30-minute pilot for a series called Fist Planet Trava, which if you're a fan of Redline, you should do yourself a favor and seek it out.
They got a whole planet
Redline
for fisting?
follows. Hey, they do.
I should correct myself. I thought it was the most ever. All this says is actually that it has over 100,000 hand-drawn frames, which is still a fucking lot for a 90-minute movie.
Yeah. It is mostly about a cool car race and is about the main character who I believe is named like Sweet JP.
Oh, hell yeah.
Trying to win the big prize.
The planet's name is also Dorothy, by the way.
Hell yeah.
It is not very complicated.
Yeah.
If you like the movie Speed Racer, or maybe if you hate the movie Speed Racer, you should give this one a shot. If you have strong feelings about the movie Speed Racer, you should give this one a shot.
Here's what I'll say. I think Redline is something that we should at least cover on a bonus episode, watch along or something. I think it's Mechs, from what I've seen of it. But I also want to make the argument that yes, it's Mechs, because I believe the Fast and the Furious film series is mecha. Because much
That's
like
American mecha.
a tank, so when you think of some mecha, it's like, it's just a tank. That's a mech. And so I see cars as being like a reductive mech. Like, when you think of Macross, those are just planes that sometimes have feet, but it's still a mech. I see the cars in the Fast and the Furious, especially when they're modifying them to do crazy magnet shit and stuff. That's Mechs.
Hold on.
That's Mechs, baby.
Hold on. What the fuck?
Did you find the 2009 like live action
I found the
American?
2007 live action.
Oh yeah.
Wait, have you not seen that movie?
No.
It's so actually good.
The what?
The 2008 Speed Racer is unironically an amazing film.
No, we're talking about Redline, the 2007 independent racing action thriller film centered around a street racing circle funded by a group of millionaires who wager millions of dollars over their high-powered sports cars, written and produced by Daniel Sadek, who also used his own automobile collection in the film. The film title was borrowed from the original working title of the 2001 film, The Fast and the Furious.
That's so funny. The anime looks good.
No, the film is most notable for being funded by subprime loans issued by Sadek's company, Quick Loan Funding, which closed its doors in the wake of the subprime mortgage crisis. I'm sorry, this film is really interesting.
It was part of the 2008 financial crisis?
No, this is the live-action Redline, not to be confused with the anime Redline.
Yeah, oh my god.
Which the question was about. Anyways, animated line is mechs. The mechs are expressions of their pilots.
I do think we got to cover it, but unseriously, as this says.
So we got a question to the Tumblr a while back. And I answered that one just on the Tumblr because it was really specific. It was about the video game Sable. I was the one who brought it up. I don't think anyone else has played it, but like they were asking about things from Sable, and they were like, is the bike from Sable a mech? Is the big worm from Sable a mech? Are the masks from Sable a mech? And so I gave some joke answers, but the serious answer that I wanted to revisit is like, I talked about like in that game, the way that you change between masks and it redefines who you are in society and what you can do is doing something in the mech space. But I specifically say something about like, sometimes you are the mech, and mech interpretation is like, I don't know. Like I said, I think previously we've been very utilitarian about it, but I think we can get a little more conceptual. And in this case, especially if there's a situation where like a car is replacing a racer's body and things like that, there's a weird fine line between vehicles and mechs, right? But you know, I think the vibe I'm getting from this anyway is that it is playing in that space, even though they do not have arms and legs. So I would say yes.
Yeah.
You don't have that kind of hair if it's not a mech.
There's some looks
they're asking,
in this.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's interesting because there's another film, 1993, starring one Jim Carrey called The Mask.
Oh, fuck me.
Would you consider that to be a mech?
Jim Carrey is the mech.
I was just going to say that. Thank you. Yes, Jim Carrey is the mech in that movie. Absolutely.
Per the answer I just gave about Sable, unfortunately, Jim Carrey is the mech in the movie The Mask.
Okay. With that cursed
awesome.
take.
Thank you.
I forgot. The actual note that I needed to pull from this question is, I would go all the way to the bottom, and I said, all this to say, your bike and Sable may not have arms, but it is your friend, and when a machine is a friend and you can ride it, why not call it a mech? And I think that applies to Redline.
Yeah, that's super fair.
That's a very cute way to put it.
Yeah. Yowie is when your machine loves you back. Yep.
Hey, thanks for writing, Octavia. All this to say, yeah, probably. Most things could probably be mecha. I want to cover this. I think Redline is cool and pretty and makes me feel things in my body. So yeah, thank you for writing in, and we love when people write in with just like general concept questions like this. Please, this is great. And very excited.
And Brian is always really good about putting out a sortie forecast. So if you're like, I don't know that I have anything general to ask, you can also look ahead at that. And if you want to write in with an in-person question, we haven't said this in a while, but we love getting listener mail. If you have a legitimate question, or if you want to pretend to be Togusa in the second gig, that's your prerogative, right, Ed?
Yeah, and we are, it's on our list. We will be covering Stories from Seoul, which is a great visual novel. Which inspired this question. So, hey, keep eyes out. You know, we're covering some cool shit.
Keep eyes on that. I got to sit down and talk to John Durham, who developed that game, for an hour. It was great. I'm excited to put that in there.
Yeah.
That's this episode of On the Shoulders of Giants, where we discussed Ghost in the Shell standalone complex. Any final thoughts, guys?
Whammon.
Even if you think everyone around you is phony, they're probably still people you can spend time with. And you don't have to make yourself a deaf mute to do that.
Yeah, here's my final thought. I have a bone to pick with popular culture.
JD Salinger?
Pop culture?
With popular culture. Because Catcher in the Rye is one of those books that, okay, I'm going to say something extremely cursed.
Mm-hmm.
Catcher in the Rye and Rick and Morty are cut from the same cloth in terms of the cultural response to them, which is to say that for some fucking reason, people have decided that Rick and Morty is a bad show because the fandom is really obnoxious, and that really pisses me off. And they did the same thing with Catcher in the Rye for a really long time. Like in the mid-aughts, I remember the Catcher in the Rye being like a hated book because Holden Caulfield is a maladjusted like asshole.
I diagnosed him, but that's my approach.
But for some reason, we have decided that you're not allowed to write stories about characters who are mean or bad. It drives me crazy. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that.
No, I think it's a great thing to bring up. I love that I made the joke at one point that I wish I had seen Ghost in the Shell standalone complex when I was impressionable, but I'm so fucking glad I didn't read The Catcher in the Rye when I was impressionable because my man, to me, as an adult with ADHD who has fought for a long time to manage that and figure out my life around it, I went, diagnosed, you have ADHD, you're disaffected, you don't know how you fit in the world, medication would help you, you don't have it, so you're gonna get really fucking weird and do 800 things in the course of one night in New York. And I think if I had read that book before I was formally diagnosed and like ready to be an adult about it, I would have said, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm just like Holden Caulfield. And a lot of things would have gone very badly. So
Nico came this close to assassinating John Lennon. This close.
In a different timeline, I have saved everyone from certain political figures, but it's not this timeline. I didn't read the right book.
Iris, any final thoughts?
Listen, I don't want to be presumptuous about the official stance of OSG Pod, but I think a suggested official stance would be to never, ever, ever go to ground and become a crazed lone gunman. Unless it would be really, 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 really funny to. And then,
we can sign off on that one. I'll give it the rubber. I got a special rubber stamp to approve that.
Prove that one.
My final thought on this is that of all of the things that you could be radicalized, there's the industrial society and its future and how to blow up a pipeline. There's so many better texts that you can become a radical off of than what is presented in this. Thanks for listening. Pilots, remember, you can reach out for advice from the team at our email, questions@osgpod.com, and non-pilots can send journal questions or feedback to the same address. You can also catch up with us on social media. Links are in the description for updates and more. You'll also find a link to the show Discord there. Come and hang out. Iris J, thank you for coming. Where can people find you on the vast net?
Oh, you can find me at irisj.net or at irisjcomics on Blue Sky, Mastodon at mellified.men, Tumblr, and Pillow Fort. I also have my own podcast, Discovers, which you can find at discpod.fun. We cover the Discworld series of books, which is really great.
Links to all of that will be in the show notes and on the website. Check those out, guys. All right, so make sure to check back in 2 weeks when we'll be celebrating our 50th episode and discussing, finally, Giant Robo, the day the Earth stood still. So, for now, everybody grab your A2 loadout. Brian?
Motoko!
Iris?
And yes, Ma, I'm still a virgin.
And Nico, you copy that?
Mess with the best, die like the rest.
All right, goodbye. I love you.
Goodbye, I love you.
Goodbye, I love you.
Goodbye, I love you.
Bye bye.